Three, two, one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting journey here on Inside Movies Galore, where we are continuing celebrating our 5 years of being here online. And we are still showing you some film favorites from inside the mind of our good friend Mosley. So, Mo, why don't you tell us what this film is all about and what it means to you?
Well, this is Planet of Dinosaurs from 1977. It is a low-budget stop-motion science fiction film involving dinosaurs, as you guessed it. No, that's not a typo in the title. It's just called Planet of Dinosaurs. I always thought that was real weird. It wasn't called Planet of the Dinosaurs. But they, that would have involved them springing for extra font in the poster, and they weren't going to do that. This is a movie that I grew up watching a ton. When I was a real little kid, I was obsessed with dinosaurs, like I think a lot of kids of the 80s and 90s were. And, my parents just kind of picked this up for me at some point. So the VHS was just always around. I'd watch it constantly. I believe I still have that VHS. Case is long gone. And I've got several dupes of it. And I think it used to sometimes be slapped on some of those multi-packs. I don't know if I own it on any of those, but needless to say, it's a movie that's been in my regular rotation for as long as I can remember. I think I was probably 6 years old or something the first time I saw this. It's largely responsible for, my love of stop motion, the American Southwest being used as a stand-in for science fiction planets, and porno mustaches. So that's pretty much my first impressions in history with the film. It was directed by James Shea, who, allegedly, requested that all of the money basically be spent on special effects, which will become apparent as we break this guy down. It was written by James Apparelli and Ralph Lucas. It was produced by James Shea as well. It stars Max Thayer, Louis Lawless. We got Pamela Bottaro in there, Harvey Shane, Charlotte Spear, Chuck Pennington, Derna Wild, and Mary Appleseth.
Although old enough, he is not related to Lucy Lawless. He's not her father or
No.
anything, just in case you're wondering. I did look it up because I was curious, but no.
Same here. Same here.
It never occurred to me. I mean, this is one of those movies, maybe I've taken some of these details for granted as I've always just watched it and it's been around, so this might be the first time I've ever read the cast of it off. It was distributed by Cinema World Pictures. It was released on November 18th of 1977, and it runs a cool 84 minutes. So now that stuff is out of the way and my first impressions are done, I guess we'll just go down the line here and get all of yours. So, Forrest, I guess we'll start with you tonight. What was your first impression of the film, and was this your first time watching it?
Yes, this is my first time watching it. I don't know how it was off my radar for under my radar for such a long time. This is really good. This is a really good low budget B movie. I think the special effects were very inventive. The use of special effects were very inventive. It's I love on the poster they have like part of the Millennium. They slyly sneak in the Millennium Falcon. It's a great it kind of reminds me of you ever see that movie Equinox?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's another classic of stop motion awesomeness,
This is definitely I know it's there's a lot. There's a whole. I know there's a whole I guess genre of science fiction, horror, and monster movies that that make heavy use of stop motion. And I feel like this is. I feel like if you ever grew up watching Muppet Babies, how they were always intercutting footage from B movies and from older movies and B movies. I feel like
Muppet Babies.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those movies that probably appeared in an episode.
Oh yeah. Interestingly enough, it appears in tons of other B movies as that very thing, like stock footage that's cut in. There's a great J.R. Bookwalter movie called Galaxy of the Dinosaurs that's fucking hilarious, and they just basically use all of the dinosaur footage from this.
Exactly.
And then several Fredel and Ray movies use it as well. Sorry.
Yeah, you know what that is? It's I don't think I've ever seen this movie ever. I've never seen this movie ever, but I feel like this is one of those movies where I feel like I've seen footage of it in other movies and shows.
Oh yeah.
Or
Lots of people recognize the dinosaurs if they've watched B movies at any length,
But yeah, it's a very fun B movie with the really good the special effects are really inventive, or they're low budget but they're very inventive. Very clever editing. Overall, I think it's definitely got all the very classic, all the classic elements, like things that make low budget B, from that era of like between the 50s and the 70s of like classic low budget sci-fi low budget sci-fi B movie.
Yeah, it's quality, old school schlock, and it's almost like it was they were designing it for MST3K without even knowing that.
Yeah, and I feel like and you could tell that they put a lot of heart into it too.
Yeah, I think actually I might have heard the riff tracks thing, because I'm pretty sure the joke I recycled in the chat with Jake was from that, where it's like more beard than man at this point.
I was just saying because I did watch the movie on Amazon Prime, and they do have the riff tracks edition.
Yeah, I was considering giving it a watch, but I didn't end up with enough time, unfortunately. So you enjoyed it though? Yes, you said you ended up watching it twice, so I would take that as a good. Yeah,
sign. Well, actually, the first time was just to watch it. Second time was more for safety, but I had fun with both. I had fun with it both times.
Yeah, it plays real well repeatedly, and it's great background noise as well. So Jake, so you're in here. I think you might be the only person in the group tonight that has a long history with this film. Maybe, I don't know. You've obviously saw this back in the day as a lad as well, yeah? What was your impression then? What's your impression now? And give us the deets, man.
Yeah, I would say it's probably somewhat of a rarity with this group to find a schlocky B movie or Z movie, honestly, that I'm more familiar with than most of the group here. I could not even. I really couldn't say when I first saw this. I was definitely one of those kids that loved dinosaurs. That was my thing. Like it is for many a young lad. And of course, it was one that I don't even know how this movie ended up in our collection. If maybe my dad thought it looked fun and picked it up, or if it was something like, oh, dinosaurs, we should get this, or I really don't know.
That's how.
But and somehow it ended up in the family VHS collection. I could not say when I first saw it, but it was one that got viewed frequently when I was much younger. I couldn't even begin to guess whatever happened to that old VHS. I mean, I don't know what happened to most of that collection, honestly, but it does give me a little pang to think of a few of the things that kind of, who knows what happened to them, But, this was one that I saw. I don't think I've seen it since I was younger. I would guess it was probably I don't know if we might have even worn out the tape. I couldn't tell you. Might have been middle school, might have been high school. I know it hasn't been since then. I think it was always kind of floating around in the back of my brain as, one of those movies that you kind of sort of remember. And then when you floated this one, I was like, oh, I think I know that one. And then when when I found out for sure, I was like, I was kind of excited. I was like, oh, I get to revisit this,
Usually when I tell people about this, they're either like too cool for school with it, or they're like, I've never fucking heard of that. I'd like to see the stop motion though, So it was neat to find someone else that actually grew up with it. And surprisingly enough, it was you.
Right.
So how did you find it revisiting it as an adult?
Well, I mean, I did remember it being pretty cheesy. I mean, I always remembered that. It was a pretty cheesy movie, even to a kid. As I said before, we were talking about some of the effects. Like, yeah, a couple of the effects were a little gory to me as a kid. Like, well, the dude that gets gored, that did make an impression on me as a kid. And that spider always creeped me the hell out. And there were a couple of other things. I kind of joked about, some of the other elements of the film, happy childhood thoughts. But to be honest, I probably saw this mostly before I was old enough to even think about such things.
Oh yeah,
and
I didn't appreciate some of the assets on display.
Yeah, there were some fine assets.
That came later, later.
Yeah, but the film does, coming back to it as an adult after many years. Yeah, it's pretty freaking cheesy. And would I appreciate it if I was watching it blind without that history? It's hard to say. I feel like, given some of the other low-budget stuff I've watched recently, including some of the stuff that's been heavily promoted by some of the people here with us, I'd say this would at least stand on par with some of that stuff. And if I went into it in the right mood, I'd probably still appreciate it as a bad movie. I have a feeling this might be a fun one to do, like some sort of a drinking game with, or something like that.
Yeah, get together and riff on it together. It's sort of built for that kind of shit.
Exactly.
Gratuitous journey.
What's that?
Every time there's gratuitous journeying.
Oh, well, you'd be dead halfway through the movie, but the thing is, for like every installment of Lord of the Rings.
Right.
It's just not shot as well in this movie,
Right. Now, you say, oh man, now you just know we're 5 years away from Peter Jackson announcing a remake of this movie with the Weta Workshop and everything.
Fuck yeah, I'm down for it. I'm there.
But yeah, overall, I think it's one that nostalgia plays a huge factor in. But I have a feeling it probably would have been kind of an interesting watch either way. And the only thing is that I ended up watching the version that Brandon provided, and it was really hard to see what was going on half the time.
That's a
bummer. I know that that's part of the issue of the film quality of this is probably not that great. I'd really love to see something like, maybe this might be a good one for like Vinegar Syndrome or someone to get a hold of and really clean it up. I'd like to see that. But unfortunately, I don't know if you guys had any better luck with the various ways you watched it.
I watched a pretty fucking
yeah.
surprisingly crisp VHS rip of it just
Oh,
on
okay.
YouTube. That's how I've usually
Yeah.
watched it because, like I said, I'm not for certain that I
Yeah.
still have the tape. I'm pretty sure I
Yeah.
do. But
I
don't want
included
to
the
that
I
blank
included
tape out, so. Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, I included the YouTube link as when I sent it out as well because I figured that might be preferable.
Yeah.
But I figured since I'd had a copy, I'd also put that out too.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
I'll
most of the shit that I end up recommending, there's usually a good chance it's on YouTube. So if there's some issue, just give it a shot.
I might have to give that a go at some point. It might be fun to revisit it again. But
yeah, I think
like
you'll
I
enjoy
said,
it.
I'm actually kicking myself for not trying to get together with with the family and rewatch it. And it's like I don't know why it didn't occur to me. I just anyway.
Well, now
Yeah,
you know.
that's my
You
go.
got the opportunity.
Right.
Forrest brought up that poster, and I just now noticed the two guys enthusiastically chucking some other motherfucker off of that cliff, like right under the dinosaur armpit. And then there's like another dude back further up the cliff, like giving him a thumbs up for doing it. What the fuck? That never happened in the movie. So Tamara, what would be your first impression of this, or was this your first time watching it?
It was my first time watching it. It was okay. It reminded me of like, your late night after hours type of movie, that you'd
That
watch.
was the intent, yes.
Or like a drive-in movie.
Yeah. I actually thought that they didn't do too bad on how the dinosaurs looked. They didn't exactly totally move the greatest, but I thought looks wise.
Yeah, it's 1977. I mean, it's pretty top-notch fucking stop motion, but
But I thought
they
they looked
better
really,
now.
looked pretty decent.
Oh yeah, nice sculpts on them too. I was really marveling at that this time through myself, so full agreement there.
It was fun. It was, you could tell that it's a B movie and it was from the 70s and stuff, but it was fun. I didn't
That's
have,
good.
Like I said, it reminded me of something okay. Well, when I got older, of course, but like when I was once I was old enough to go to the bar, you come home from the bar, you kick back, put something on TV. Oh, hey, what's that?
Yeah,
Oh.
exactly. Crappy late night cable movies. That's
Or when I was
Definitely.
younger and I would sneak out because I couldn't go to sleep. I'd sneak out at my great grandparents' house and go turn on the TV and watch whatever movie they had on.
yeah, whatever spook show, sci-fi theater like show was broadcasting some public domain movie. I think this might even be in that realm too, which is why it's so easy to just upload onto YouTube, because I think you're just allowed to do that. Really,
I know if I knew in advance it was gonna be on, like it's so easy to tell what's on nowadays. I probably would have purposely watched it when I was
Fuck
younger
yeah.
because I like dinosaurs.
it
And I've always
certainly
liked
delivers in
dinosaurs.
that respect too.
Right. So if I would have said, I would have been like, oh, dinosaur movie. Okay. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's a good insight, actually. I hadn't even thought about that. That's cool that you bring that to attention. Yeah, what is it a movie you would purposely watch if you knew it was coming on cable and you had nothing else to do? That's fun way to rate a movie. Good job, Tammy.
Okay.
Pre Jurassic Park, this probably had the most variety of dinosaurs I've ever seen. Because a lot of these older dinosaur movies with stop motion, they could only afford to do like one. If they hadn't blown their whole wad on the stop motion and had these guys running around in like some weird fucking Costco jumpsuits or something, I don't know what you would call them. It could have been a moderately budgeted movie, but these guys were clearly stop motion nerd, little Harryhausen dorks that wanted to just make an epic, stop motion movie. And for what they were working with, I think they succeeded pretty well.
Not to mention the all the budget they needed to cultivate all the impressive facial hair on display in this one.
Oh yeah, dude, their hairstylist was working overtime for sure.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that.
My internet go out, or he muted himself?
I think he muted himself.
I think he muted himself.
Something must have happened with him.
Oh, did I? Oh, I muted myself. Damn it.
Yep.
I was just gonna say, like, right when you mentioned the budget restraints, I saw that they wanted to do a pterosaur, but they couldn't afford it. So that was funny timing there.
Right, that would have been rad. Plucking someone off a cliff, maybe we would have gotten something similar to that scenario in the poster there. So, Carl, this is your first time with a Planet of Dinosaurs.
It is. It is. I loved dinosaurs as a child, but I liked to see them in books, where they looked more realistic. And anytime I saw them in any kind of movie, they didn't look realistic enough, and I didn't enjoy it. That's why I never really enjoyed Godzilla movies. This reminded me of Godzilla movies a lot. It's just not my thing. Now the Tyrannosaurus Rex looked a little more realistic in the Triceratops. So those looked good. The rest of the dinosaurs didn't really look too good. But
Well, I mean,
I
if
did.
we're splitting hairs there, or if we're really getting down to the nitty gritty, none of them look realistic anymore. They were all more like big sharp
Well,
chickens,
I know.
like
I'm just
they were
saying
birds and shit.
for what they did. Like I said, the T-Rex and the Triceratops did look pretty decent. So, I'm not gonna.
I'll give you that. Yeah, the other ones do just
you
look
know.
like random dinosaurs you would
But
see.
the mini T-Rex, as I call it, because I mean, it looked just like the T-Rex, but it was pretty tiny for a T-Rex. I mean, it was only a little taller than them. The first one that attacks them, I just kind of cracked up laughing. I mean, it's a mini me, T-Rex, because I'm like, not even a baby T-Rex would look to be that small.
I think it was some entirely different dinosaur because
But
their
it
skull
looked
structures
exactly
were very
like
different.
a T-Rex, so that's why And I do have to admit, when the dinosaur stabbed the idiot asshole, dumbass, whatever you want to call him, because it was all the above.
Sounds good.
Yeah, when he got speared and the way he fell off the ground, I started laughing. But then when they showed him splat on the ground the way they showed it, I really fucking roared.
Yeah, it's great. Love it.
Almost more than any comedy. So I mean, although I didn't necessarily like this in the way that maybe most people did, I did have some laughs. Only because of the cheesiness. And I thought the dialogue was pretty awful. And some of them the people just seemed pretty stupid. Like the guy I just mentioned. He's like, "Oh, can't you just call for help or whatever?" And it's like, go to the nearest. He said, "Go to the nearest civilian place and ask for help." It's like, dude, you're on another fucking planet. Who knows fucking where?
Well, it's kind of implied that they're living in some type of a reality where there's multiple alien worlds and all types of different shit. So they probably in theory, they could have crashed on a planet that did have other people living there or some shit,
I don't know. He just seemed like a complete moron. Complained about everything and a complete moron. That's why I did write. How he complained. Oh, we lost a ship and we lost something else, and someone else goes, and we lost a human's life. Because the girl had just, the hot girl just died, and so when he died, that's what I wrote in the chat. Oh, we lost another gun.
Yeah, it's hard not to love that
because he had a gun in his hand when he got creamed. So I was like, oh, we lost a gun. Not Karen, we lost him. We lost a gun. So
there's some other pretty funny moments too, like when Mike's jokes that just never land. Like he has these dad jokes that he tells unsolicited throughout the movie, and none of the other characters laugh at them. So it's just
I only
awkward for
heard
everyone.
I only heard the end of the one joke. I mean, I was like, I heard the punchline, and they did laugh at that. I don't know if it was Mike or someone. I don't know who the hell. I
Mike's
don't
the
know their names.
sandy blonde dude with the mustache. Well, that doesn't really actually. That describes a couple different characters.
I was going to say that sounds like the captain too.
He was the one in the blue suit, right?
Yeah, blue
The-
suit dude
and
with the mustache.
the one
Okay.
the one who would have ended up hooking up with the really cute midriff-bearing girl if only they had made it.
Yeah, both got
Yeah.
fucking 8.
Yeah,
But I
that's too
suppose
bad.
they were reunited in its digestive tract.
God, I thought you were talking about the riff tracks for a moment, because of course the guy who played Mike on MST3K was one of the leaders of the riff tracks.
So it
So
sounds, Crow, like you enjoyed elements of it as a B movie, but you weren't really stoked on the dinosaurs. Did you at least like how they were animated somewhat? I mean, that's like at least
No.
reminiscent of old. You didn't like, like any of the old Harryhausen joints, like Clash of the Titans or shit like that.
I liked Clash of the Titans.
It's the same style of animation for the creatures. I mean,
Yeah. I wasn't a hugest fan of the skeletons in Clash of the Titans, but yeah. Other than that, I enjoy Clash of the Titans, but yeah, it was just
that's weird. I always figured since you didn't like the dudes in suits method of making monsters, you'd be more hip to the stop motion, because I guess pre-CGI, that's the best you could hope for, right? I mean,
yeah.
how
That's
else are you
why I
gonna
was
do a
never.
T-Rex, you know?
No, I was never really a big fan of monster movies when I was younger, because they just either way you looked at it, like stop action or the man in the suit, either way it just didn't look right to me, and
I'm a fucking sucker for stop motion. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is. Fucking Gumby. I
Well,
love that shit.
Another notable, you mentioned Jurassic Park earlier. A notable comparison here is that this film clearly based the dinosaurs on traditional, old school views on what dinosaurs would have looked and acted like. Jurassic Park really came in with the wave of a much more modern take on it. So there's also a very strong stylistic difference in the looks of them, not just the way they're actually animated.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're like an 8-year-old kid in 1977, you'd probably have been hyped on this, because it would have been like, oh shit, these are all like from the books of the library that are probably from like
I was a
1960
4-year-old,
something,
and I definitely would not have been hyped on it.
See, I don't know, because like a lot of them are pretty
I was
accurate,
hyped
like
on
Jake
Star Wars
says,
in
to what they were
77.
depicted like in the books. So Dave, was this your first rodeo with these dinosaurs?
Yes, I'm finished.
With this particular film,
yeah. Do you have anything
even
else
though I have collected this one, I have the Good Times DVD and the Riff Tracks version. I just hadn't had a chance to check it out.
Nice. Well, at least you got that Riff Tracks ready to roll as soon as you feel so inclined.
Right. But I ended up picking these up from a fellow collector of mine, and it just kind of sat there, and I'm glad that you chose it, because then I could see it. And as far as the dinosaurs, I remember a lot of the monster movies like Giant Gila Monster and Journey to the Center of the Earth, and Ray Harryhausen stuff. It's funny that you mentioned Ray Harryhausen, because there is one of the dinosaurs in here was modeled after one of Ray Harryhausen's dinosaurs in The Beast from 10 Fathoms.
It basically, a lot of people consider it a cameo of the monster, because it is.
And Ray Harryhausen had actually visited the set of this film while it was being filmed, and he kind of gave them the unadulterated go ahead to have the monster have a cameo in the film,
which is fucking epic.
But other than that, I mean, I don't know. There was a lot of, like I said earlier, gratuitous journeying going on, and weird background music that went
music
along
fucking
with it.
slaps,
Like I
bro.
can
Super weird.
understand that. I can understand some journeying, but journeying with dialogue will definitely help.
Bro, though, if we're being
I
real,
do have to
most
say
of the
there
B
was one
movies
there
we
was one
watched,
journey that
Go
they
ahead.
did skip that they should that kind of made it feel weird. They jump out of the shuttle. You see it's a little bit of ways to land. They're swimming very, very slowly, and then 2 seconds later they're on land. Yeah, there's no way they would have gotten there that fast. They would have had to swim really fast, and they were swimming. They were
Right.
paddling. So
I
Well,
mean,
my-
gratuitous journeying to
My biggest gripe about the
pad out
film
runtime in B movies is super common. It happens in lots of the other stuff that we love, just in different ways. When they do like a 30-second pan shot of someone walking down some stairs or something, and it's like, all right.
my biggest gripe about the film, no matter how I look at it, is the fact that they killed off like the sexiest looking chick
Yeah,
that was like in their
yeah.
it's haunted me my entire life, dude.
like right off the bat. It was like, okay, swim to shore. Okay, let's go see what else is happening. Okay, let's give you that Bond swimsuit girl action for a moment, and give you that Raquel
Yeah,
Welch.
and then we'll
from
immediately
1 million
fucking kill her. Like, of all the characters we
and they
want
don't
to
even
see,
show her dying.
dude, of all the characters you want to see in scantily clad cave wear at the end of the movie, they choose the fucking lady that looks like the young version of the mean bartender lady
Right.
on Cheers over that fucking over
Right.
that chick. How does
Oh, you
that
mean
happen?
Carla or?
I think Kyle looked better than that.
That one thing I will say, it's
Yeah,
like a joke last night. I was like, childhood
Rhea
memories.
Perlman.
But one thing that is interesting is that they really never did get around to that cave wear until the very end. And it was kind of disappointing. But
I have
one
notes on
thing,
that when we get around to that point too.
but
Yeah.
In defense-
we should be finishing
Jake.
these first impressions, definitely.
yeah,
We're
in
getting
defense
there.
of killing her off quickly, she didn't deliver her lines very well.
None of them did. None of them
Well, I
did.
think a lot of it was like ADR. Almost the entirety of the dialogue, actually, like I think was recorded again later on. It has that feeling at points where it's like, I don't think that was coming out of his mouth.
I did read that the captain had such a thick Canadian accent they had to redub most of his dialogue.
Fucking hilarious.
The
He looks
director
like a syrup
actually
tapper.
that dude in post production with his own voice.
All right, so we'll touch more on that as we get to the end here. But Brandon, let's get your first impressions in here, because after this, we're basically just going to be rapid firing cool scenes, unless we want to talk more about the walking.
Kroll, didn't you say that you had something else to say before you finished your first impression?
Oh
But
yeah,
you
I was
did,
just gonna
right?
mention Jurassic Park as well, as it was the first time I had seen a dinosaur movie and actually loved it. Because the dinosaurs looked real and moved real, and yeah, that blew my mind the first time I saw Jurassic Park, because I'd never seen anything even close to it.
Yeah, I think we'd all be probably in
It
agreement
was
there.
yeah, it was
Along
more
with most
like
people.
watching those dinosaurs, walk right out of the book onto my TV.
Yeah, they didn't look like that in my childhood dinosaur books.
Yeah.
Most of
Well,
those were
I mean the
outdated as
real
fuck.
books, not like child books, not like
Yeah,
children's books.
unfortunately, they did not have that level of money to put forth to come close.
So was this your first time with the movie, Brandon?
Oh yeah, this was my first time. I am kind of disappointed that I didn't have time to do the riff tracks, as just a lot of watching to do for upcoming shows and stuff here. Because I think I would have had more fun with it, with the riff tracks. I do feel like this is something I probably would have really liked as a kid. And as far as the nice things I have to say about it, I liked the stop action dinosaurs. I always liked that. I mean, back in King Kong, I thought it was very impressive when you think about the time. And same thing here. I loved that, and I liked the spider. That was very creepy. But
Fuck the spiders. Fuck spiders.
even
I don't like spiders.
Me
even
neither.
the way they did that story at the end, where it went in an entirely different direction than I thought it was going to go, that did impress me. I'll give it that. Otherwise, I'm not gonna lie. I was a bit bored by it at times. It felt slow for me, but then again, I really do feel like if I had had this more on the on either one, if I had more nostalgia linked to it, I wouldn't have been that bored with it. And two, if I'd watched the riff tracks, I probably wouldn't have been bored at all.
Or if you like watched it with a group of friends, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the downtime gives you time to like crack jokes on the people, you know, or say things you think they would say, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So
I watched
Yeah,
that on my own straight out. So.
This movie would have been good. What was that show? What was the
MST3K.
science fiction theater? Where they made fun of movies and cracked jokes over them. This would definitely be one of those
Yeah,
movies
that's what we've been
that I would
referring to.
enjoy. Okay.
Yeah, there is a Rift Tracks version of this, which does that.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's Rift Tracks from the same guys who do MST.
Yeah, I think it's like partial. It's
Dan,
not
I
the
watched
full
this on
crew of
Amazon
them,
Prime.
but
I should have
small
watched that
film or
version.
something.
But yeah, this was the pacing was just so slow for me.
It was.
I kept thinking to myself, Planet of the Apes did this sort of thing way better. I wish we had, and I kept thinking, I wish we could have covered that on this channel. I have to keep putting that. I have to put that forward from now on until we.
You talking about the
actually do it.
original?
Yes, the original Planet of the Apes is epic. But no, with that being said, again, I do think that as a child, if I'd seen it, I would have liked it, and I probably would have liked it more seeing it today. And I still feel like that the dinosaur effects and the odd twist of the plot at the end did impress me. So, like I say, I felt like it was a mixed bag for me. Some good,
Right.
some not so good, but overall, it's an okay product.
Yeah,
I'm
and that's
glad. I'm glad I own a copy.
It's a cool oddity to have, especially once you start. Now that you've seen it, you'll notice the stop motion stuff cut into other random B movies from later decades. You know, you'll be.
Oh
like,
yeah, I know.
Shit, that's that fucking.
I know.
part.
Seen the B-roll.
I mean, it's nowhere on the level of what is it? Winston, the dude who does some dinosaurs from the 80s.
Stan Winston?
Not Stan Winston.
Yeah, I mean, this is no Denver the Last Dinosaur or anything.
Well, of course, but
but
it's no Theodore Rex or anything. But
It's no King Kong.
It's no Carnosaur
it's no Tammy and the T-Rex. But,
Yeah.
or Super Mario
it'll do.
Brothers.
yeah, but I mean, for 1977,
Yoshi!
I dig it.
Yoshi was a
And,
cool
you know,
dinosaur.
I think Brandon's impression is pretty much the impression most fans would get of it now, unless you remember it from childhood and unlocks like some chapter of your life you'd forgotten or something, and it like causes you trauma. Sorry if that's the case, but most of the time I think it's going to be good memories if you saw it back in the day, or you're just going to be like, yeah, there was some good stop motion effects, and I really like this guy's beard, so this movie's probably fine.
Another thing about these guys, sorry to interrupt you. I just thought I wanted to say it is the first thing they run into is a brontosaurus, and they have no clue about dinosaurs because they're immediately like running away like it's going to eat them. Brontosauruses are herbivores and don't eat people. So
the guy I was thinking of was Will Vinton.
So
I don't know if I've seen any of his shit, Dave. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah,
well, you've seen Will Vinton. I mean, he did the California Raisins. He did. If you saw any claymation
I love
from the
California
80s
Raisins.
or 90s, early 90s, you've seen Will Vinton.
Tell about her
Nice,
down the
good to
great
know.
honey.
Yeah, this
Really
obviously
good.
doesn't stack up to that, but for being done on the budget they clearly had, they spent a lot of it on these effects, and it shows. It won different awards apparently back then, probably like Festival Awards or something. But yeah, I mean the plot of the movie is simple as fuck.
I mean,
They're
it's
going
definitely
through
a B-rated movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of
you
course.
can't compare it to like another movie that came out in 1977. What was that name of that movie?
No one
It's on
cares.
it's on the poster for this movie.
It's and why would you compare it to that? But B movies win awards too, and this won several apparently, and they're well deserved. That's some quality stop motion effects. So the plot of the movie is super simple. They're going through space for some reason. I don't know. This guy with like a weird perm and a fucking really thick mustache has hired them to do something. And the reactor on their space plane, there's fucking model rocket that they're riding through space, is going bad. So they like hop out and bail out into landing crafts and crash land on this planet. Their ship gets vaporized. They're stuck there. All their shit, including their distress beacon, sinks to the bottom of the friggin' lake that they land in.
The distress beacon was supposed to have popped back up, though. Remember, that's why they went out in the water in the first place, because
we're getting there, bro.
It was designed to float.
So they end up on the beach in this just random alien planet, and so they decide that they need to swim back out to get their distress beacon, and immediately a girl's eaten by like some gnarly lake monster or whatever. The movie's called Planet of Dinosaurs, so it's a dinosaur, but it doesn't look like anyone I've ever seen. It just looks angry and sharp. And she dies, and so that sets the tone of the movie pretty well, I think. And it's especially shocking because, as you realize when you get older, they immediately killed the hottest chick in the movie. I'm pretty sure it's because she couldn't hang out on account of they spent all the money on the special effects, so they couldn't even really pay these actors, apparently. So she was probably like, yeah, I was maybe going to get naked for this, but now I'm just going to shoot this scene and go home.
I like to think it's the ghost of Bob Barker at the bottom of the lake devouring women.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. I can get behind that. So that sets the tone for the movie real quick. There's dinosaurs, and they're going to be eating several of these folks. So they take their weird laser rifles and their provisions that they did manage to salvage and start journeying through this land. Maybe they might be able to find some people that live there. What are your guys' first impressions on this whole opening sequence of Planet of the Dinosaurs? I, for one, especially love the opening credits. The music combined with like those weird blue scans of like the different creature shapes. It just is iconic to me, partially from the but I think it's got a weird charm to it, even outside of that.
I like water monsters. Even cheesier ones seem to. They seem to work better when they're a water monster.
Especially
so
Bob
they really missed the opportunity to showcase a water monster that killed her. Like you assume it was something that got her, but you don't know what because you never see it. It just grabs her and that's it, and she's screaming.
You get a quick glimpse of it.
Looked like a mosasaur or something like that.
I couldn't even see that.
Go,
I didn't even see that. I honestly didn't see anything.
Now that you mention that, and I think about the one in the Jurassic Park movie, I can kind of see like maybe that's what they were going for.
They worked on that credit sequence. It had a Superman the movie quality to it as they.
Right.
Actually, it's more like a Superman 4 opening credit quality.
Yes.
I gotta say, like, as far as the opening sequence, I think that was kind of where I first realized this was going to be a nostalgia trip. Because, like, when you first see that raptor or whatever it is, that first dinosaur that you see, and you hear the opening notes of the theme, and it was just this weird sort of discordant sort of you've heard it probably 100 times before, but it was like just the way that it started. I was like,
it was
holy crap. Well, it was just that opening note. It was so ingrained in my mind, I didn't even realize it. And then they played it. I was like, that's nostalgia. But As far as that opening
It's pretty
scene, though,
tasty.
there is one thing about this movie that you have to keep in mind, or the movie falls right apart. And that is, you gotta suspend your disbelief like nobody's business.
I cannot do that.
Well,
I tried.
if you try to apply science, the movie falls apart.
I
And
did.
it's
immediately.
like I made a comment at some point. One of them's like, "This plant's just like belladonna," and I'm like, "Yeah, you're
Which
not
is
going to
poison?
see not going to see nightshade or even that level of sophisticated poison during the dinosaur times." But the first instance where you really see this is right at the beginning when they crash land. And they throw open the escape hatch. They're not wearing special suits. They're not wearing breathing apparatus.
Granted,
I was
Nothing.
thinking the same
There
thing.
was a
dude.
pretty sudden emergency, you know. They were
Yes,
flying through
but
space,
if
and
these
a scene
are-
that looked like it was
But
like,
they're on
you
an
know,
alien
these
planet.
are
I don't even know they can breathe. You know, what I
If
mean?
these are seasoned astronauts, seasoned space explorers, and some of them were, they would have known
exactly.
better than to go into a
do you think they could afford
crash.
fucking spacesuits, Jacob?
But that's what I'm
Jacob,
saying.
I thought the same thing, Jake.
And
that's
then
the
just
reason.
jump, and then assuming that this was water that they landed in and that it would be harmless and they could jump in. Sea monsters, nothing. It
That
could
was
have
funny if it
been
was just
acid for all they
Yeah,
knew.
and they just
Exactly,
the credits roll.
exactly.
That would've been fucking
It
great.
could've
But it's
looked
like I
water.
said. It's like I said, though. If you get hung
That
up
would
in
have been a
those
really
questions,
quick. That would have been a really quick movie.
Yeah.
They jump
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
that would've
water,
been
throw
like,
the acid, and they all burn up.
I thought before they
short
crashed,
movie.
What's that, Tammy?
I thought before they crashed, they said that planet was coming up, and she did a whatever thing.
I
she
feel like
said.
there was a line of dialogue that indicated the planet was probably very much like
Ah.
Earth, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
I won't know one line. They said, "We don't know what's down there, Captain."
not
So-
not to
Well,
not
you don't
to
know what's
note
down on
the-
any planet, you know.
Yeah.
If you were airdropping into any part of the fucking world randomly that we live on, you know, you might airdrop into a bad place. I don't know what's below me, you know. But
Yeah, not to mention the host of, say, diseases and bacteria that you would see there.
right, yeah.
Right.
I mean, just because it's an Earth-like atmosphere doesn't mean it's going to be safe. I almost never, you know, rate the scientific accuracy of a movie unless it sort of presents itself as one of those things that like overly explains the science to me, where then I feel like it's trying to be somewhat accurate, you know. If there's
Well,
some,
again-
like, fucking dude giving you like a monologue about the science of some aspect of the film, then it's like, okay, these guys clearly think that they're trying to, you know, be accurate. Or
I
at
don't
least give you
usually
illusion
too
of
much, but
Right.
just some of this stuff was just glaringly.
yeah, who gives a fuck? Once
glaringly,
you see
like-
the first mustache of this movie,
Right.
science is out the window, bro.
I'm not on a mustache level like you.
Science can't
So-
explain those jumpsuits they're wearing throughout the entirety of this.
No, they can't.
I
That's
like
for
my
sure.
mustache, but you know.
See, I like
But-
the more I get older and the more times I watch this, I appreciate how kind of shocking that hot girl's death is in the lake right there, though, because and by such a gnarly looking creature from the glimpse that you get of it, that it's like, oh fuck, you know, like
I didn't even
they
see
just
that
killed the
once.
hot girl, like Dave said, you know. So what's
Well, I mean, I
everybody's
think
on
that
the
the
table.
midriff girl was pretty hot too.
She's
you know,
all right,
the slut, and she's
She admits
definitely
to
a
it
slut.
later,
I
too.
mean,
She admits to it later too, which is hilarious.
no, yeah, I mean, she's talking to him, and it's like, oh, I think you and the boss were more than just more than your
We'll
boss.
get there.
She's like, yeah,
we'll get
and then
there.
she's
but,
like, I've been with a lot of the men. I'm not an angel or something like that. I'm like,
any
she's a
other-
slut.
yeah. Any other thoughts on the beach scene or any of the opening sequences here? I mean, I think there's some talk about like, let's move inland in case it's amphibious. I feel like that's safe thinking.
Yeah,
I
that's when
just
they
love
started.
that
That's when
the
they started
hatch-
moving.
I just love that the hatch that is normally on top top that people get out of, they were just throwing them out a side hatch.
Yeah, I mean, there's no design. I'm pretty sure that thing that we see them supposedly flying on as the main craft is like a model kit that I built at some point as a kid. There was all,
It's only a model.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's just some
the
model.
shuttle itself actually would open up would open up on the side, but it wouldn't be a hatch. It would be like almost like doors that wouldn't open from the
They
outside.
they do pretty
like a DeLorean.
They do pretty well establish that corporate hack who's there with them, his company doesn't really give a shit about things like doing things the right way, safety, employee concerns. Yeah, they probably thought it might have been cheaper to somehow to make it that way.
He probably
definitely
somebody not to inspect the reactor.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, technically, if they did everything by the rules, that one chick would be in charge. And
yeah.
Which one?
No, that's only if
later
only if the captain died.
Yeah, the captain was still alive. She was second in command, technically.
That really friendly Canadian dude would have to die before she could ascend the ranks.
He's a nice guy.
Photo alien moment right there.
Yeah, exactly, Forrest. That's
weak.
what I wanted to bring up as well. That sleazy fucking businessman dude is definitely sort of like an early example of the kind of shit we've seen in other sci-fi like Aliens, where there's like the sleazy fucking dude from what is it, Mad About You, that you just want him to fucking die the entire time. I don't know why I'm associating everybody with sitcoms.
That woman who's second in command, but nobody listens to her, even though she's like knows shit's bad.
Yeah, she's and they do some clever stuff with that for the scale of the movie that we're looking at here,
And one thing I want to say generally about the movie, it definitely feeds into a lot of archetypes and stereotypes as far as the different characters.
Right.
But and a lot of the plot was fairly boilerplate. A lot of the dialogue was extremely generic and bad at times. But honestly, I feel like in terms of the basic plotting and how the story, if you get over the obviously bad science and the often bad acting and dialogue, the story actually holds together relatively well for the most
I agree
part.
with you.
I think it could have been a lot worse in terms of and then like Brandon said, it actually does go in a few directions you wouldn't entirely expect.
Exactly.
So
there's some shit in there.
Yeah.
Hidden below
a little bit.
That sweet Gouda, you know what I mean? So basically, the first scene exactly establishes everybody's personality in the movie too, right? Like that one dude takes off. He's the first to volunteer to take off his shirt, and then he just doesn't fucking wear a shirt for the rest of the movie.
I mean, they don't take it. That dude was
never comes back on or gets used or anything.
And it's like I had to joke when I saw that. I'm like, okay, so the dude without the porn stash is the first one to strip. And
he was half naked through the whole movie.
Yes,
you had some
gratuitous nakedness. I'm gonna be able to get naked, Unfortunately,
the guy got a girl,
but it is kind of funny though that again you get this scene right at the beginning where a guy and a girl both strip, and unfortunately they kill off the girl, and we're stuck with the guy.
Right,
but they're really the only ones until the end of the movie. You got the one girl, the assistant, who's wearing skimpy clothes to begin with, and no complaints there, really. And then I guess the guy that ends up sweet on her kind of ends up airing out a little bit, you might say. But
a couple of the dudes released a couple of buttons, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
start showing some man cleave by the end because
Yeah, they didn't go as far as they could in the other direction, but it is kind of weird because the movie at the beginning does have that kind of vibe of okay, well this could be fun, and then they just don't deliver on that promise.
Yeah, and, let's be real here. We're all talking about nudity. And
Of course.
it is a staple of these types of films. But I mean, I like that I
Right.
almost like that that's not in this one.
I might have
You know,
enjoyed it
because-
more.
Oh,
if there
yeah.
was more nudity.
I might not have
all
got.
of it, bro. But,
We might
you know,
not have gotten to keep watching it when we were kids if there had been more of that.
Yeah, and
I-
it wasn't really easy to
so.
play on cable or riff track or whatever. What's that, Brandon?
I'm regretting the Star Wars crossover that was promised to me by the poster. The Millennium Falcon should have swooped in there
Yeah.
and like obliterated that one dinosaur at the end. Actually, if that actually happened in the movie,
It could have
I would
been a
never
side
forget this.
story. It could have been a side story on the Ewok planet, you know?
Right.
Dude,
Or on
it could've,
Andor.
like, it could have
Andor.
came in at the end and just shot that T-Rex's head off, and then it lands, and then Itchy from the holiday special gets out and just gives him some holographic porn, and then takes off again and Delusions stranded on the fucking planet.
Oh,
That'd
yeah.
have been cool.
Itchy was
but
truly the greatest character in all
he
of
really
Star
was.
Wars.
And Lumpy.
The greatest character that never existed.
So, you know, pretty much after they set out and we establish all our personalities, we immediately start seeing them in action. Like Mike seems like a good guy with a fine mustache, but he makes dumb decisions and is a little too flirty and just gives that girl the fucking gun that I think she ends up ruining. They kind of travel
She drops
through
in the
some
water.
swamp for a bit. In my mind, this is the only travel sequence that I didn't at least find visually gratifying, because later it's all beautiful, like imagery of the Southwest or wherever the fuck they shot this at.
It was in Southern
cool
California.
desert imagery. Yeah, right.
There was
So-
I do give it that the location looked nice.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's that same location they used in a lot of the Star Trek films. I mean, not Star Trek series.
Yeah, Star Trek
And
Westerns.
Bill and that's also where Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, the
Yeah.
evil Bill and Ted came in.
And then like a
them
billion
out.
Fred Olin Ray movies that would later reuse a lot of this footage as well. Where do they go there in Bill and Ted? Is that in Bogus Journey, you said?
Yeah,
Both-
Bogus Journey is in there because you can notice the actual cliff, desert cliff that they use at that shape there. But of course, they also used it in Star Trek, which is why they also used it in Bill and Ted, because they actually played the scene where Kirk is fighting the lizard dude, and it's. But I think that it's probably one of those real estate things that was pretty available in California.
Oh yeah, all the time. There's tons of places you can go and make them look way bigger than they are too. So I guess that's why the first travel sequence through the swamp is the one that kind of bums me out the most, because it's like it's not gratifying in that way. It just feels like when you look at it, I don't even know where they're at. Like it just looks like it could be like some fucking dude's like back property that flooded or something. You know, it doesn't even look like they couldn't have flown them all out to the Everglades to shoot.
Who
that
says
shit or
it
something.
wasn't?
Was it the Everglades? Pretty
Probably
sure
not.
Yeah, like outside some fucking dirty ass reservoir down in Southern California where they didn't need permits, you know. I don't know. That's the only one that I don't really like. But they run into their first dinosaur, like, you know, face to face, I guess, and that's the Brontosaurus or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Hasn't there been some controversy over the Brontosaurus classification in recent years? Didn't it not exist or something? Or is that the Brachiosaurus?
The Brontosaurus
I think it's
does
a
not
Brachiosaurus.
exist. No, Brontosaurus was cobbled together by multiple skeletons. It does not technically exist. Yeah.
Isn't it
Really?
like Patiosaur or something? Yeah.
What's
It
that?
does in some archaeologists' mind.
Mine.
They figured it out, I feel like. in
Yeah.
these
There will
days.
always be a Brontosaurus in my mind.
It's basically
so I don't care.
an Apatosaurus with certain things added, if I remember correctly.
So
Yeah.
they Plutoed it.
Yeah, they did that a lot with fossils back in the day, apparently, dude. Most of the dinosaurs we grew up on aren't accurate in the slightest. Some of them are accurate bone structure wise.
What about a T-Rex?
I think T-Rex are pretty much one of the ones that are, because T-Rex were so fucking like thick as fuck that they would just die and their skeletons would all be right there. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they're not like they're harder to scatter. You feel me? So there's more complete T-Rex skeletons found. I mean, it's
I
like
mean,
Right.
Brontosauruses are fucking huge, though.
yeah, but there's parts of their body, you know, that are like brittle little bones, not like a T-Rex. You feel me? So it's like the whole neck up area is where they kind of fudged it, if I remember.
A lot of it, a lot of it also has to do with location, what happened, when, and how things were preserved. And I believe, I could be wrong about this, but I believe that the events that happened at the mass extinction at the end of the Cretaceous were better for preserving fossils than a lot of what came before. From what I've seen, because definitely a lot. T-Rex was one of the ones that was there at the end. So, like the ones that were there at the end, I'm pretty sure they have more complete skeletons of many of them, but I know that's not an overall. Plus, they were in North America where they found a lot of these. There is it's one of the treasure troves for fossil hunting. The Montana, Wyoming, Dakota, that area. That's where they found most of the T-Rexes, and a lot of that was a really good site for fossil preservation. And a lot of these dinosaurs came from places around the world where they were not preserved well.
Yeah, that too. I mean, there's a ton of nuance to that stuff. And they've been lying to us for years of what dinosaurs would have been actually interacting with each other, because some of these motherfuckers were dead like, millions of years before the other ones even really showed up.
Right.
So it's always just been like a choose your own fighter situation with a lot of dinosaurs.
Right.
You really can't trust.
I choose to believe they were correct.
I mean, that's fine, but
My
I mean,
childhood. Don't ruin my childhood.
some of the accurate new ones look pretty rad too.
You ruined my childhood.
So pretty much after the first boring travel sequence, I think I'm mixing
The
up
first
with
of many.
Now the other ones aren't that bad, but I mean, I think after that is where they. Let me check the notes.
I like the waterfall, but I always like waterfalls.
Well, basically, they decide that their best chance of survival is to proceed inland, so that's what they do. They fuck up the laser gun. They end up running into that big old brontosaurus, which sort of started our, discussion of this here. And then after they fuck off from that guy in fear, which Kroll mentioned didn't make sense, but I mean, I wouldn't want to be near any animal that big that's probably never seen humans either. You spook that son of a bitch.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, but it's just the way they were acting like it was gonna eat them, and they wouldn't. I mean, a brontosaurus, you could have, if it doesn't step on you accidentally, you could probably go up and pet it. It's not gonna eat you.
Well, yeah, but again, you got to keep in mind these people think they're on an alien planet. There's no logical reason to assume it is a brontosaurus or a patasaurus or whatever name you want to give it. There's no logical reason. They said it resembles dinosaurs. They recognize the similarity, but to assume that it's going to be the one from Earth and that it'll behave the way they believe that it will behave.
They'll assume that.
Well, this is
They
true.
assumed the water was
This is
water,
true.
Hey, bro, all I know
the
is
air was there.
a lot of people look at those fucking brontosauruses or whatever you want to call them as being like safe dinosaurs, but in reality, you ever piss off like a cow? I mean, we take them for granted sometimes too.
Is it safe?
Fuck you up, dude.
Yeah. Now, if someone wanted to go around tipping brontosauruses, that probably would not be a safe pastime.
Exactly.
That's what the cave boys do when they were drunken teenagers.
And a good illustration of how not entirely intelligent some of them were is when the one was scanning the berries to find good food, and the other one comes up and like, oh, what is this? It looks interesting, or something like that. And she's like, it resembles belladonna. That was my reference to the
she was about to fucking eat it too. But
belladonna.
Poisonous.
Yes, belladonna is a famous poison. It is in the nightshade family. Nightshade has its name for a reason.
Yep.
There are a lot of edible plants in the nightshade family, but even there, it's well known that you don't just screw around with them. Like, you can eat a potato, but you got to get it at the right time. You can eat peppers, but you don't want to be eating the leaves, things like that.
Let me
It's
make
like,
this argument though. Okay. That lady's probably just scanning all the plants and had already scanned that one.
Yeah.
When that girl comes up, she gives her the shit that tastes like shredded wheat. And the girl is like,
Yeah.
oh, fine, whatever. If only I had some prunes to wash it down, then,
Yeah.
like the berries, right? And she's about to eat them, and that girl tells them they're nightshade. But that girl that's doing it is Miss Lee, who is like that fucking greasy perm dude's secretary, basically.
But I didn't get to the point. I didn't get to the actual point of, again, her intelligence, which you're right is. But it's like the comment she makes. So she's like, oh, it's like Belladonna on Earth. And she's like, friend from home. And she's about to pop it. And it's like, most people, I think, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Most people are aware that some berries are deadly. And that just because it's from Earth doesn't mean it's safe.
Well, and I don't want to adhere too much to any, like maybe sexist ways of thinking. But it being the 70s and this girl being in a halter top with bell bottoms, and a secretary, I think she was supposed to kind of be like that arm candy, office meat type chick.
She was
supposed to be kind of
and
I will guarantee you, people outside, like there are girls like that in the world.
I know there are.
That would be
I've
met. I'll fucking eat it, and they'd be having this conversation. They'd wander into camp. If we landed on this planet now, we'd be like, remember in Planet of Dinosaurs when they did that shit? We'd be talking about it. She'd wander into fucking camp dead,
Right. She'd come in with like an armful of I don't know, poison hemlock berries or some sort, or not berries.
In my mind, I imagine that, and then she just collapsed.
Why did I say that? Poison ivy berries. There we go.
I mean, they're very careful never to say it is this thing from Earth, like you mentioned, though. She says it's much like Belladonna on Earth,
Yeah.
Well,
and I believe go ahead, Brandon.
They just needed to do it the old-fashioned way. Just have people eat them, and if they die,
look for the bitter.
Find the bitter,
find the bitter. Yeah.
I feel like if we're really looking at the way the movie was made, like outside of the obviously awesome special effects, is that they were like, well, we have these berries. Who knows where they got them? Probably from some trail mix. And they were like, what's the fucking poison plant that immediately comes to mind, right? So they probably just had her say it,
I mean,
it feels like outside of the special effects parts of this movie was largely DIY, shot on the fly, like real low budget stuff.
The structure is a lot like a lot of films at the time, plot wise, except for the end. But the plot wise structure is very similar to a lot of films. One that's oddly of note is Robinson Crusoe on Mars, where the advice that the guy is given when it comes
water
to
is where you find it,
which is the greatest advice to how to find water in a hostile environment.
I mean,
but
it's not wrong.
So there's a lot of that in those movies, especially in that time, 60s, 70s. That seems to be.
Well, whatever college kid wrote this didn't fucking, probably just had heard this stuff, it was like Belladonna's poisonous. There we go. It'll be that. And that sounds romantical or like, fancy or something.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we get that whole sequence. And then they basically end up deciding that they need to take up off the side of this fucking mountain, right? Because they're like, there's shit down here that can, hurt us. So if we get up somewhere high, we have like a better chance of like forming a base camp and being like safe from the larger predators or whatever. They know that there's predators around because they end up stumbling across like a what do you call it, like a masticated friggin' brontosaurus that's just, or what's left of it anyways, so, and they had just seen one of those, so it's like something very big had to have killed that shit. So the T-Rex is kind of around for the whole movie, really. It's hinted at the beginning, obviously, and then it
Yep.
becomes a big deal later. But they end up heading up this awesome cliff that I'm pretty sure I've probably watched some tiny Norwegian fella climb on YouTube, and they think it's going to be real safe, and it turns out that it's
safe?
not entirely safe. They lose their food on the way up, and for some reason just write it off as like no one's ever going to go back down and pick it up. We'll find food up there. It's fine. We'll find food naturally growing on top of this fucking weird plateau thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Food is
He's
where
very
you find it.
positive about things.
Plentiful food that will feed like all 9 of us, or however many's left there at that point. Probably like 6.
Like an invisible golem had gotten rid of it.
One of my
They
favorite
could
parts
they
of the
could
movie-
always kill the businessman and cook him.
That's true, and I again probably
Hunter,
something all
Party
of them
5.
maybe were thinking about the moment that they landed. Like if anyone's getting eaten, it's that dude. I would think that. I think,
So
like if we all crashed on this island, for sure, I'm going to be like, all right,
the biggest
we have to
plot
band
point.
together to eat one of these motherfuckers. That's for sure, Kroll. Anyways, go ahead.
I've noticed the biggest plot point that we have really once we get everybody established and we get the slightly less competent captain established and we got the jerk character established and I guess the start of romantic relationships. The big thing is we've got to survive, but there's a big freaking T-Rex out there and we're afraid it's going to eat us in our sleep, where you've got the big conflict between mustaches, where you've got the captain guy saying
mustache versus beard, if we're being
I love how it's a bigger dinosaur that they start going after, but it's a smaller dinosaur that they end up spearing, and they all cheer afterwards like it's like this big fucking thing.
Yeah, they kill this tiny dinosaur, which I don't know, a little bit resembles a
that plays
velociraptor,
larger
but
into
but
like
it's definitely
the theme of
what the
them
fuck
all
is that?
needing a release and feeling like they're in control of the situation. The one girl pretty much
In control.
Their strategies are all off. I mean, I agree. The captain's strategy is bad because, let's take off. Oh, who knows what other unknown creatures there. But also the other dude saying, oh, let's just go kill it. Like he's going to go take the spear and take it down himself. And I'm thinking to myself, you're both wrong. This big dinosaur doesn't even care about y'all. He's just going around killing dinosaurs that would eat you and bringing them back. So really this dinosaur was protecting them because there was a bunch of like hostile creatures and that thing just keeps killing it, bringing it back to the lair, eating it and leaving them alone.
I said the same thing. The first one that was after him and the big dinosaur ate it. I was like, oh, it did him a favor,
Well, and also, this is one of again, if you think too long and hard, the logical loopholes about this. But this is a big loophole in the thinking of the beard. We'll call him the beard. What was it? Jim, I believe it was. His big fallacy is we kill it and we'll be safe. But the thing is, they're on an uncharted planet of some immense size. And who's to say exactly, without some research, without some years spent getting to know the place, who's to say just how many of these there are? And, is this something where if they kill it, it has like a 100-mile home range?
Yeah, I feel like
any
T-Rexes would have been predators like that, because they were probably super fucking territorial,
right?
And
but I mean, how big is the territory? And I mean for all they know, it could be 1 mile for all they know. And
but that's not how animals like that operate because they won't live, right, bro? Like, okay, what is a cougar's range. I think it's something like 40 square miles, which
Something
doesn't
like
sound
that.
like a
They-
lot, but when
Oh,
you
I
think
thought
about
it was
They
like
need a lot.
I thought it was like 18 to 25.
I don't
They
know.
need
what the
they
rate
need
is.
a lot of room. They need a lot of room, and that's one of the
adult
reasons
male
why.
cougars roam widely, covering a home
Yeah.
range of usually between 50 to 150 square miles. So it could be
Right.
pretty big or fucking massive on a human scale. I mean, if you're living in like
Right.
a 150 square mile T-Rex range, for example, and you
But-
killed that bitch,
I don't
probably
know,
you have a while before you have to deal with another one.
You do potentially, but the point being that if word gets out among the T-Rexes that there's a free space,
Word gets
you
out.
know, then there's going to be someone moving in there pretty quickly. You know what I
Well,
mean?
They killed
Um,
Terry.
Hey, it might not even be that big a radius. Obviously, all the food
Yeah.
just drops itself at their door.
Exactly.
The T-Rex's doorstep. It walks 5 feet. Oh, well, food. All right, just go take it back. So you never know. It might not be.
I think we're
very big
operating
at all.
under the assumption here that either of them are necessarily offering an immediate, just full stopgap solution to
Right.
the thing. Like Jim is very much more suggesting that if stuff like this is happening, you confront it, you kill it, or you drive it away to like make it learn not to fuck with you. You know, and that is kind of true.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that lives in the wilderness is gonna have
With a
to deal
wolf.
with that, you know? Like if you're DIY living out in the woods, there will come a time where you'll probably have to kill some asshole bear because he keeps fucking with you. Like he keeps trying to fucking eat you, you know, and take all your food. Like
The
if you were
nerve.
really living in the woods, you're gonna have to fashion a spear and stab that motherfucker because or else he's gonna eat you. You know. So I think that's what Jim's getting at for most of the movie. Yeah, but his beard makes it hard to like take him seriously.
And he has that deep voice.
Yeah, he looks like the brawny paper towel guy. Like probably that's what he looked like in the 70s, maybe.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean,
He's actually the only one that does sound like he's not like his mouth's moving and the words are coming out at a slightly different time.
Yeah, dude, you know what would have been a funny ending for the movie if the ending of the movie was like had a winter scene where they had all like these awesome black woolen coats and garments, and then you just see Jim there like shaved completely bald, like shivering. You know? They've just been harvesting his hair.
Well, it is interesting at the end that the captain has the beard seems to be in the process of migrating from one to the other.
I do think it's kind of weird because a character like Jim would be the character that in most plot lines would do something stupid and reckless and then die off, or end up dying off in some sort of I'm going to be I'm the captain now situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Which neither of those things happen in this film, and that's something I have to admit that was something different, because a character like that actually being right, and then not only being right but leaving the captain in control and saying, it's like, look, this is what I'm doing, and we do this, we leave things the way they are, chain of command is fine. That's just like, wait, what?
Well, he kind of lets them all come to a very mutual sort of, really when you think about it, the end result was a combination of both of their ways of thinking on it, you know, defensive and offensive kind of a thing. I mean, they had like skin pants at the end, and
well, they did try to poison
badass
its food
loincloths
at the beginning, and it just didn't work. So
Yeah, Jim
but
kind of reminded me of like a spawn between Bud Spencer and Victor French.
He looked like he had been a fucking badass wrestler in like WWF's like 70s territorial days, you know, where he'd come out there with like a fucking badass axe and like a maple syrup tap and just fuck someone's face up with it, you know?
Well, he was on The Hills Have Eyes as Jupiter.
Is that Papa Jupe?
Mm-hmm.
That's great. I didn't know. That's amazing. 2 childhood films for me that are connected with main characters. Wow.
And apparently he was also in a movie in the 70s called Did Baby Shoot Her Sugar Daddy? Oh, man.
It's quite the title. So, yeah, basically they end up coming up on this cliff. You know, they send the dude upstairs. He ends up finding some eggs. What are your guys' thoughts on that whole scene? You know, where he finds the eggs and.
I'll say another.
I was waiting for something to come and claim the eggs.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
What's that for us?
I said another proto alien moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I mean,
he should have known. He should have known better.
Yeah.
But again, I gotta say that scene where the Triceratops rushes and gores him, that was something that kind of did leave an impression as a kid. But also, I think even then, I probably was like, "Well, serves him right." Yeah, but he was a prick. He did. Yeah, and yeah, and of course now coming to it all these years later, there's all these other layers added on to it. The fact that he's a stand-in for corporate greed, he fills that archetype, as we said before. The fact that he does have that really, really, really hot secretary that he treats like crap, you know, and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's kind of like, yeah, he pretty much deserved it. But he did get a couple of moments where he was able to show that he had more of a human side, but still, he deserved it.
Yeah, he's responsible for one of the funnier moments of the movie. You're a part of it, I guess. I suppose Mike is responsible for it. That beautiful.
I quit.
Yeah, the whole resignation paper written on a rock. Fucking.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Speaking of Mike, played by Max Thayer, he's still acting. He's still out and about doing stuff. So I guess at least one person in this managed to keep going.
Although his last movie was 4 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I see. Last movie. Yeah, he's got a couple of shorts since then. Yeah, but yeah, that's something.
I don't know. Anybody else got any thoughts on Marvin's fucking death scene and the whole?
Well, you know what? I'll save it for the end of the show.
Who's Marvin?
But I gotta say, I love that scene. I love that scene to death. No pun intended. Just how the way
Harvey, I think it is.
Harvey, well, same fucking thing.
Oh, the asshole.
It's funny. It's both funny. It's both funny and very entertaining. Very well done. Very well done for its limited, budget. It definitely, actually, I would say it's a moment that definitely adds value, adds a lot of production value and entertainment to the movie,
and comedic value.
Yes, comedic value, exactly.
Great. What about you, Dave?
Especially since Triceratops are they were among the they were herbivores. They were like one of the late dinosaurs.
Right. They were one of the later ones. They were essentially like a rhino as far as the dinosaurs go.
Big old rhino turtle.
And Mo, your slip of the tongue just now was not entirely wrong. Harvey Shane, who plays Harvey Baylor, his most recent credit is a TV show called This Just In, where he plays Grandpa Marvin. So that's interesting.
That's insane.
That's funny.
I don't know. I kind of think when the dancer, the belly dancer chick gets carried off by the dinosaur, and you don't really see what happens to her. I kind of think like that the dinosaur was just lonely.
I mean, that's possible. Maybe they went off and repopulated the planet together or something. I don't know.
That's where we got draconians from.
Yeah. But
Oh, okay. This is crazy. Louis Lawless, who played the captain, IMDb says that his birth name is Lawless Edward Lawless.
What?
It's like, is that, if that's correct, that's like, what were his parents thinking?
Right?
No wonder he changed it.
It sounds a little too close to LOL.
Right.
Middle initial.
All right. So, pretty much after that point, that's where they realized that like climbing up this big fucking cliff to try to live on top of it with this triceratops isn't a good idea. So they just kind of venture on and do a bunch more, pointless traveling, as Davis dubbed it. I don't know. That stuff's largely more satisfying, obviously, because of the scenery. I mean, those cliffs, that seemed like a nice hike up that whole thing that they were doing, too. Probably be a really rad place to visit in person, but
No doubt.
much, I think, after that is where they basically end up finding their way up onto that plateau, right?
Yeah.
Like they're like, maybe a cliff isn't the best idea, but at least on a plateau we'll be able to live our lives, maybe.
And I was
Just
wondering
stay
where the
alive.
fuck they found all the supply, all the trees, because that was supposed to be a plateau,
Right? Where did they find all the wood?
Oh,
to
I live
make
on a
the-
plateau, bro. But plants don't grow here. We just don't have bears and shit.
Oh, yeah. You definitely.
But
It depends on the
looked like
plateau.
only rocks once
They
they
get here
got up there.
sometimes, but
So
Yeah, we never saw the trees.
materials.
I was seeing that too, and honestly, obviously it's an editing thing. Obviously, they spliced together scenes where they were in different environments. I wondered about that myself, but definitely where the waterfall was in that area, you could expect a lot more vegetation, but I do think that was some particularly thick trees in those scenes that you're talking about. And I was like, yeah, I didn't see these from the other shots.
See, when that guy went into that cave with the waterfall and he was splashing around, that would have been a great moment to bring back the underwater creature.
fuck yeah, it just
whatever.
pops up again.
Yeah,
like,
we would have missed that great scene of him dying.
That would have been that would have been a major suspension of disbelief, though. That's a whole other ballgame.
Right.
in the caves, Jacob.
I agree. And that scene where he does die,
Interconnected
it's
ocean.
just so fucking hilarious. That was like the best scene in the movie, easily.
Yeah, it is some quality editing when he
Not
comes
just
in
because
and they're dead.
the jackass deserved it, but because it was just so fucking hilarious.
So basically, the whole conundrum throughout the entire movie is whether they should be doing one guy's plan or the other, but they are just kind of mostly walking around trying to find a place to do it. But by the time they get up on this plateau and start building, their, I guess, settlements,
Wigwams.
it's very much defined where there's like people that want to be on Jim's side and people that kind of want to be on the other dude's side, especially after that dude and his sweet perm got impaled and sent off that cliff. I don't know. Do you guys think that stuff's handled well throughout the movie? I mean, I think it's, the people make some solid points on both sides. But,
I agree.
the people that agree with them, like the adjacent crew members, all seem to have good reasons for doing it as well.
I think when they finally decided to vote on whose idea, like they decided to do the captain's idea first, and if it didn't work, do the other guy's idea, which I 100% agree. I thought the captain's idea was a little safer. Was supposedly a little safer and might work. And then if it doesn't, then they could try the other dude's idea. And they all voted on that. And I think that's the best way to do it is through the democracy, not one person being in charge. Tyranny. So,
And big credit to Jim too for, like you guys said, or I think it was Brandon that pointed out that he never really like flipped out or went off, the chain and tried to cause a revolt with the other people or anything, even though he
Thought he was going
probably
to at
could
one
have at
point.
different points.
Started to
I
at
mean-
one point when the crowd's like, "We're all moving along," and he's just like, "No, we are staying here. You can go off by yourself if you want." And then that's when he runs
Yeah.
and gets the monster
actually-
dinosaur away from them.
It was actually weird because the captain was the one who actually pulled up the spear and said, "Okay, let's go," and he's like, "Nah, not right now."
Well, he was just kind of I think he was tired of being challenged. So he wanted to act like a big man and fight him, and we know that he would have gotten his ass kicked, but his heart was in the right place because he was just
Right, but
just
my
tired of
point
being
is that,
challenged.
there's scenes in the movie where he's helping like build shit, even though the guy complains about him
Oh, I
like,
agree.
not helping enough.
Well,
He's still helping.
They
It's
said
like,
he
what
wasn't
the-
helping with the
This
with the
dude has
barricade
like
or whatever, but he
unlimited
actually was.
patience, I
He
guess.
actually did help with the barricade, even though he was 100% against it.
Yeah.
And then the only thing he didn't do was join them in partying because he was looking out because he felt like somebody needed to look out. Like they weren't out of danger. I mean, yeah, they may have had one good successful day, but danger's still out there. And if you relax, then you're just gonna get eaten. And I mean, I can see
Yeah,
his point
they
of view.
both have their points.
I can see his point of view,
and-
but I can also see why they were celebrating because I mean, you can't have life just going on being vigilant the whole time. I mean, that's not really a life, in my opinion. So I think they both had good points, but
Oh, yeah.
I think they should always have a lookout while the others, relax a little bit, so not everybody needs to be the lookout at every moment, but there always should be a lookout. So
Makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I think that by the time they're up on this plateau, and obviously the plan has failed, and dinosaurs have broken through, and they realize that they've got to like try to hunt these motherfuckers or something. It's clear neither of their plans are exactly working out well right out of the gate. Because they don't really successfully hunt the thing. They weren't able to kill it with all the weapons they had before, and then the bigger T-Rex eats that little iguana motherfucker, and they know they have something much bigger to try to kill. What is your guys' take on the poison berries? I mean, do you think these guys could have harvested enough poison berries to even really do anything to
Probably
a
not.
creature that big?
No.
I don't think that
no, because they drank
Well-
it like alcohol, so it seems to be just like alcohol. It didn't really seem to be poison.
Well,
but that was fermented.
and that was something else too. But the question would be, one, would it actually have been toxic to a dinosaur?
Exactly.
Because that's a big thing. And I think the one guy did make a very valid point, which seemed to be borne out in the movie, that a lot of predators will not eat something that they don't kill themselves. So the idea of the bait would not have worked probably with this particular dinosaur. But yeah,
that put it to this movie because everything else.
Well, again,
but the idea that the poison could affect it was brought into
Maybe.
play with the idea of the bait, and
Maybe.
then they combined the two with the bait-tipped spears.
Right.
I always thought that was really clever.
I mean, it really, again, you really don't know until you try. Because, just to take as an example, to use another movie example, I remember seeing, I think it was the second Sherlock Holmes that Guy Ritchie did, The Game of Shadows. Might have been the first one, where there's the dog laying comatose, and Watson's like, "What'd you do?" He's like, "Oh, I gave it ricin." And then after a few minutes, the dog just pops up and runs away, and I'm like, I call bullshit on that, because ricin is well known to be one of the most deadly toxins known to man. But then I looked it up, and I'm like, well, yes, to man, but to dogs, it knocks them out for a while.
Yeah.
And there's a few, and there are certain other things that,
like chocolate's
if
bad
I
for
rem-
dogs, but we love
what's
dogs.
that?
Like chocolate's bad for dogs, but we love
Yes,
it.
chocolate is basically speed to dogs and cats. It is basically it's like pumping them full of cocaine if you give them chocolate. And so we get a similar effect, but on a much milder scale. So, and then you'll have things like taxanol is deadly toxic to humans, to dogs, to cats, to horses, deer. They're fine with it, And so when you get away, and those are all mammals. If you get into human, like mammals versus reptiles, toxicity isn't even going to line up. I'm sure in most cases it would be,
It's a novel thought, but I mean, it's a clever combination of the ideas. I always thought where it's like they kind of go with both of them at the end, where it's let's stab the fuck out of them, but with your poison, just in case. And it works pretty good. I mean, the dinosaur really kind of stabs himself because he's big and stupid and just wants to eat the little meat people.
He's angry. He's angry enough. He's angry enough and stupid enough.
No, but we're missing that the scene that we were kind of glossing over before we even get to all that is the scene where he comes into contact with that beast that Dave mentioned earlier, that beast from 20,000 Leagues. What do you guys think of that scene?
I think it was a decent send up to having the creature having a cameo, and the fact that Ray Harryhausen gave it its blessing to be there. So
yeah, it almost makes it kind of touching,
Yeah, it is kind. I mean, it's kind of nice to It's, if nothing else, it does give them some bragging rights that Harryhausen was supportive in a sense on this one.
There's probably some argument to be made too that including such a famous, obviously just a movie monster sort of divorces it from reality a little bit, so you're like, all right. I mean, if they got that Harryhausen monster in there, maybe it doesn't matter that all these dinosaurs don't look exactly right. They're just supposed to be cool stop motion dinosaurs, because that beast certainly is neat. I've always liked the design of that creature. It's just sort of odd looking when you first look at it, but then it makes a weird B-movie kind of sense, So, but yeah, I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts, I guess, on that entire scene? Anybody else got anything they want to add? Like that whole chunk of the film there where they're really dealing with the T-Rex. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Or at least any of you that haven't chimed in yet,
I like the T-Rex, but I guess the whole thing is, half of them thought that they could go after it kill, and the other half was like, no, we're gonna try and trap it, and it's like, okay,
Like, yeah, this is you've got this creature that's like the size of a skyscraper, and there's only a handful of you left. Like, not many of you left.
And
let's go kill it.
Yep.
Yeah. I do like that it fell on the
They only
one
have
guy in the
homemade
comic.
weapons.
Of course,
because that gun of theirs didn't seem to do anything to us. They only got like homemade weapons.
Yeah, and of course they try to throw a few spears, and then they're like, "Oh, let's run!" and a lot of them were left behind in the running process.
And that one girl has that whole speech about how, like, oh, it was so many thousand or million years ago when an ape picked up a club and killed its first predator or something. Like, it's a cool bit of dialogue, but I don't think they meant fight a T-Rex.
You're right.
I feel like that's not the same.
That's
thing.
how I felt when he was saying, "Oh, the whole wolf thing." Wolf attacks and blah blah blah. It killed everybody until they went out and hunted it. I'm like, that's a wolf, not a fucking
Yeah.
dinosaur. Which even the
Yeah.
captain points that
And
out.
I suppose the smartest thing they did was have it run straight into to the fucking thing, you know.
Right.
At which they were like cheering again. So.
I would cheer then. I mean, that was a cheerful moment.
Well, and Jim got like underneath the dinosaur or something like that.
Yeah, how the hell did he get under the dinosaur? And the way they just kind of pulled him out, like it just took a half a second. Like, why couldn't he have just gotten up? Like, he was just, he sounded like he was under the dinosaur, and then it looked like he was like next to it or something when they tried to help him out. It was just, I don't know, really silly the way that scene looked.
If they were going to do the movie as I thought they were going to do, I figured they were going to just kill him in that fight. That would have been an excellent way to do it too, just crush him with the dinosaur at the end. But no, that was kind of, there was instead a comical moment of, oops, the dinosaur fell on him.
Somebody get this thing off me.
I think it just, I don't know, it all really works for me, man. All the dinosaur combat in this. I mean, we kind of glossed over other certain scenes, like where the dinosaur, like the T-Rex, when they first encounter the like proper big T-Rex, and it just fucking kills that Stegosaurus.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It was okay. One of the better moments.
Yeah, I like it. It just breaks its neck, which I think is actually maybe kind of accurate to dinosaur books and shit like that, you know.
I was wondering, what did they do with that little dinosaur that they killed and got all happy?
They ate it.
They ate it. Yeah. They talk about eating it.
Yeah.
Remember when she's like, I wonder what other new things I'm gonna have to get used to, you know, and then she's like eating dinosaur, doing all this other shit.
Yeah.
People dying.
Well, they didn't show it like on a spick or something.
No, they didn't, but they talked about it.
I think it would have been cool to see it on a spittle or something, just to see them roasting.
True,
right?
But I think they only had the two, like, or maybe the one. No, it was the two different fake dinosaurs, because they did pick up like special effects wise, they pick up a version of that small one when they kill it. Which this movie gets a lot of credit for that. We'll talk about it later when we get to special effects at the end. But a lot of times in these movies, you don't ever see them interact with like a physical dinosaur prop. But this does have several physical dinosaur props that they made to, you know what I mean, like intercut into those scenes, like that one that they load full of berries or whatever.
Well, they don't need to have. They didn't need to have the spider one in there. They didn't need to interact.
No.
No,
I agree that kind of made me go ugh, and you know, because I just hate spiders, and well, it looks like a giant spider, and you know,
I don't like spiders either, man. You know, I saw that part, I'm like, ah.
That actually they made look realistic, unfortunately, because I fucking hate spiders. So you know, I think if I was her though, I wouldn't have walked backwards and fell over and laid there. I would have fucking ran, and if I did fall, I would be fucking scrambling up as fast as I could to run. So
right.
that was definitely one of those silly things where the girl falls and she's like,
people can legit get paralyzed by fear, though. That is the thing. But yeah, that's
well, she wasn't paralyzed.
Well, no, I would have just
done
what I do around the house when I see one. It was, if David's around, I just sit there and go, spider, 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 spider.
She eventually whacked it.
Well, you would have killed you.
Like, yeah.
I am actually proud of Tammy, though she killed a spider on her own just recently. So, I when she told me she killed a daddy longlegs, I was like, good.
Oh, what the fuck you killing daddy longlegs for? They're the best fucking spiders in the world.
I thought you don't like spiders.
They're barely spiders,
I do, but daddy longlegs are different. They actually help get rid of all the bugs you don't want.
Yeah, they're not actually spiders.
Exactly. So
those are the creepiest ones, man.
No.
Yeah.
They're creepy,
wanna
but just let them
walk
live in the
on
corner and just
floor,
leave
I had
them
no problem with it.
leave them alone. You know. I don't want to
Yeah.
take some huge like stand against Daddy Longleg murder right now. Though. Let's
I do.
It's wrong. Don't do it. That's it.
Murderer.
Well, if David would have been awake,
Murderer.
if David would have been awake, I know what he would have done. He would have caught it and then he would have fed it to the turtle.
Well, at least that would have been more of a natural,
circle of
natural
life. I
death.
can understand that.
Yeah, at least that's more of a
Anyways.
natural death because in the wild, that probably could happen. But someone coming by just squashing it, not as likely.
Actually, I squashed it someone, then put it down the toilet.
Maybe he lives in the sea somewhere.
We can only hope.
Getting
Plotting
his
his
life wet.
revenge. Plotting his revenge for a needless maiming.
He probably already laid his eggs, and they're hanging above Tammy's bed.
The spider
Side
sequence happens during what I have affectionately been calling the Minecraft montage of this movie, where it's like all of a sudden they're like, yeah, we're here, we're safe. And then it just goes into like a crafting montage where they're all like making sticks, making flint.
Yeah,
like
right.
it just reminds me of Minecraft. So that's what I've been calling it. And I mean, that's where they get most of the dialogue of the movie really out of their system. I feel like there's not even any closing dialogue in the film. Like after they defeat the boss dino, they just kind of go Little House on the Prairie, like Dave said. I don't know. What do you guys think of that montage and the crafting? It didn't look like they were very advanced crafters. I mean, you know, with the amount that they talk about, because they reference several times in the movie that they're like, what do they say, Jake? It's like a sciencey word. They're like, we're
Engineers.
Engineers, yeah. They say that several times, and it's like, all right. I mean, but
Well, there have been many science fiction films where they have settlers that are from Earth that are trying to find different planets to settle on, you know.
Right.
And I think this is kind of one of them because, you know, even though they crash landed on this planet, they were definitely ready to settle down if need be, you know.
Right. I mean, but it just didn't seem like they really were, though, at first. You know, like the weapons they fashioned were very primitive. You would think that they would be able to, I don't know.
Do more?
I don't know. It felt like they would have made like a ballista or something crazy like that, you know, because it's like they're engineers. They kept saying it.
Well, I don't think they
make
had time.
basic
but maybe,
bows and arrows. I get it. It's low budget, but if you really wanted to nitpick logic, it's like, what the fuck?
But I'm thinking maybe like once they had that,
you couldn't leverage a boulder onto that fucking T-Rex like they did in Land Before Time and just call it a day. Like that's.
Well, I'm thinking like maybe later when they had the house and they had their like settlement, they could have had like a giant ballista or whatever as like a defense thing. So they could have had like definitely more military like stuff for protection, because just because they killed one T-Rex doesn't mean nothing else going to show up.
Like,
I mean, the way they showed the film was like, okay, we killed the T-Rex, now we just live another 5 years with nothing happening, no other dinosaurs.
That might be true if they have a large range, like we discussed earlier.
Well,
yeah,
they do show that they've been killing them and eating them after that. Maybe not any T-Rexes, but they have been killing them and eating them.
Right, but they didn't show like another one that was really big and nasty.
You know, we
I mean,
actually are.
There's always something bigger and nastier.
Entirely what they learned about its behavior while dealing with it. Like once you learn that system, you can kill shit. Like that's the same way Native Americans killed stuff like buffalo or fucking grizzly bear.
Yep, drive it off a cliff.
Yeah, you learn how to deal with its behavior, and then you do it. Is it just me, or does that the more you look at that dinosaur on the poster, it really looks like he's wearing like go-go boots and he's showing his thick ass to the people behind him?
Right.
I can't fucking
It
not.
reminds me of
imagine it, man.
I don't know. I had a dog.
Does
use
my
to scare
ass look big
people,
to
and
you?
That's what it
Yeah,
reminded
and
me
that
of.
guy's just like, yes, bitch. And you fucking go ahead, Forrest. I'm sorry. I couldn't.
I was just saying,
not-
I used to have a dog that used to. I used to have a dog that would wiggle her butt at people, and that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, but I'm not the only one seeing it. That makes me feel better for sure.
Hey, people, does my ass look big to you?
So basically, the ending of the movie is, they've
That's
killed
no
the
moon.
fucking T-Rex. They end up building a pretty, sturdy looking little, stone settlement right there with like a windmill in the background. It looks like.
I missed the windmills.
Yeah, it's like back there in the background, and
Saw the house.
kind of chilling with their kids and these sweet loincloths. My favorite part of it, well, really only one dude's wearing a loincloth if you look. And my favorite part of that is the end shot of them like celebrating because of the T-Rex or whatever. Or whatever that last shot, it's of that dude that refused to wear a shirt for the rest of the movie. And then it dissolves into him wearing a loincloth, and then he's more scantily clad than everybody else still, when you really think about it.
Yeah.
Because they're all just wearing very modest like, skin
Right.
outfits, and that dude's in a fucking loincloth.
Oh, except for the little boy, he's naked.
Well, that's true, but you know what I mean? That dude fucking
We
is
see, we
still-
have some nudity. We got
I don't know if that was
little boy
intentional.
naked.
Call
If
it
it was,
what
it's
Brendan
kinda
Fraser
genius,
calls
but-
it, a butt flap.
However you prefer to refer to it, sir. But it's pretty funny. I don't know. I like that it, I feel like that has to be intentional in the case of whoever at least edited the movie. Because it fades from that dude that hasn't worn a shirt since the first real scene of the film.
Yeah, he takes it off and then just never
Yeah.
puts it on
Never
again.
again. I think his name is like Glenn or something like that.
I was thinking Clyde, but no, we're both wrong.
Maybe. Yeah, it's
But
probably somewhere in
I
between.
think we're both wrong, but I know the idea.
Point
you're
is,
thinking of.
though,
like
whoever
a weird-
edited
weirder
this
name,
had
but-
to have purposefully dissolved that into him crouched down with
It's
his
Chuck.
lock,
Chuck. Yeah, that's it.
Chuck, there you go. That feels like a good middle ground between the two.
Yeah.
That dude did not wear a shirt for the whole movie, and there's no way whoever at least edited this didn't purposely do that, because it dissolves into him in a loincloth. You know what I mean?
Right.
It looked like they pretty much had it settled at the end, at least their little quarry. If you really pay attention to it, looks like they have like a very narrow sort of cove thing going on. Did anyone else notice that? Where it's like, it felt like they had like a pretty good fortified little spot where any dinosaur that would be able to make it down there without just falling off the cliff and dying would have been coming like down the way, they'd just be able to stab it with some big sticks,
Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
like they had everything set up pretty good,
Except for that
Yeah.
ballista.
Yeah. Well, maybe they hadn't gotten started on that yet. So I don't know. Final thoughts on the ending before we get into the specifics and favorite scenes.
I'd have to say the ending was definitely surprising. I was expecting them all to be eaten off, or or at least maybe see a couple of them kind of walk off into the sunset of the planet, type thing. I wasn't expecting it to fast forward a few years and one of them have a kid and stuff.
Right.
Never did find out who the father was though.
Well, one thing we failed to mention earlier in the film as well was the fact that the one dude, the buff dude, who you thought was pretty much just a hunk of meat and muscle, actually was pretty smart and had figured out this idea of setting up reflectors to bounce back signals that might be sent there so that people
which
would know.
was basically the sheets that you would normally stick on cars for snow.
Yeah. Maybe one of those space blankets your grandpa gave you for Christmas that you just put in the trunk of your car and never used,
Or the thing you use when you're wetting your bed and they have to hook it up to you.
the
catheter?
people
No.
key alarm.
Yeah. That's what it looked like to me.
That'll teach you.
I don't know. Let's go around the circle though and see who. What are your thoughts on the finale, Forrest?
Thoughts on the finale? Oh man. It's kind of I don't know. It seems kind of grim. Seems, I don't know, a little grim.
It is a little bleak, you know. I mean, they're still stuck on the planet, but at least they've like Minecrafted their way into a pretty decent life, right there.
Yeah, I didn't find it bleak at all.
Yeah, it's pretty hopeful. I wouldn't say it's a happy ending because they're still stuck on the planet, and there's no indication.
Well, they did say like
comes for them, but
I mean,
it
they
could
say
happen,
like, "Do you think I would get rescued?" And she was like, "At this point, I don't think it matters." Like they were already happy and settled in, and kind of, enjoying their new life. So
yeah, they're doing all right. I mean,
worried
all
about
of the sexy people had been taken out of their gene pool, unfortunately. So, you know,
I would disagree. I would
disagree
with that. I would disagree with that. Nyla was pretty cute.
Which one was that?
The second in command or whatever.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I thought she was.
Yeah,
but
she was
she's never showed any skin.
Yeah.
Forrest knows what I'm talking about. There's several of those ladies with those figure skater haircuts that were pretty cute in movies back then.
Oh, yeah.
Especially B movies, and their names are escaping me at the moment. But that lady is really like the sleeper hot chick in the movie, in my opinion.
Right.
She's the Marianne.
Yeah, you know, all the people to diversify the gene pool are gone. It's like two couples at the end, isn't it? Two couples and like a third.
Two couples and a third guy. So, you know, if they need a pinch hitter to liven things up a little,
I suppose his little fucking half brothers could like make it less Flipper Kid or something, you know, but it's not going to work out. It's going to be wrong turning that motherfucker in like 20 years, you know. Maybe not that quick. They'd be like those fancy inbreeders at first, where it's like, "Yes, darling, come look at the turnip."
Yeah, well, one of them will have to have a girl.
You know, like 50, but really they have like a bunch of weird sort of fucking inbred mutants underneath their house. You guys ever see that movie? I think it's called Breeders, maybe.
Or in 20 years, they're sitting there minding their own business, and some random folks coming in off from the east or whatever, and it turns out that it is a populated planet, and they just happened to pick the one spot that wasn't.
Right?
That could happen.
What the hell are you guys doing out here?
They get found at the end, like that kid.
Why don't you come to New San Francisco?
I don't know. I mean, I like that it's not like, you know, overly bleak, but I like that it's also kind of not necessarily happy. It's a good ending.
I think it's
I always like that ending.
Yeah, it's creative.
Although, like you said, it's depressing that a couple of the that a couple of people aren't there to enjoy it at the end. But you know,
yeah, I really like the secretary. We never got to know the blonde bimbo that dies in the beginning, but you know.
Well, I mean, even Harvey could have stayed around. That guy had like a sweet perm. We don't know that wasn't natural.
No, fuck him.
You got to introduce that variant into the.
He had the best death, and he was such a douche that, you know, we didn't need him.
Everybody deserves redemption, man, including Harvey.
Nope. He's like that. He's like that lawyer in Jurassic Park that gets eaten when he's taking a shit.
I think this was Gennaro. I think this was too.
You gotta go.
It's true. You know, it's part of nature, man. It's like your flight or flight response. Like sometimes you just poop your pants. It happens. There's several instances in this film where if I was there in person, I would have for sure shit my pants, and those jumpsuits would have been gone a lot sooner. You know what I mean? You're not gonna
You've
wear
been
that
running
around
around,
the
you've
whole
been running around on a loincloth on day one.
I'd have probably been naked from the moment we showed up. I maybe would have pasted like some fig leaf shit around my.
Well, you need to take those fucking soaking wet clothes off. You know?
I'd have been like Michael Scott in that episode where he tries to film an episode of Alone on his own, you know, where he's like, he cuts his suit up into different clothes in the fucking first 2 minutes of it, you know, because they're just going to get useless. Those jumpsuits were, again, as we said, science can't even explain those. So,
and I mean, they did have water. They could have washed them. At least they were probably
they
getting
got
pretty
wet
right.
several times, at least a lot of the characters did. But
they didn't even take the clothes off to wash the insides.
I mean, was anybody missing in that final scene? Is that where all those sweet skin clothes came from? Maybe.
Just the 5 of them.
Can you make dinosaur leather? Oh, I guess people make like alligator boots, so it makes sense.
Yeah, I guess they could have. They knew how.
Anyways,
Right.
Diving into the specifics of the film, I guess we have all the stuff, you know, your classic production design, special effects, you know, music. I guess music is probably the first thing we're confronted with in the film. What do you guys think of the music of this sumbitch? Tammy.
I don't know. I guess it kind of went with it. You know, it went with the times. You know.
Fair enough. Dave, what do you think of this? The music that accompanies this final
Of the music?
Yeah.
I thought it was quirky. I mean, a lot of it it was different. Not sure all of it was good.
Most of it wasn't. But there's an odd quality to it, like you said. It kind of feels like somebody had access to an early synthesizer and they just took a bunch of bong hits and played around with it in the garage. Got something that sounded pretty fucking good. And, you know, for the most part, the music doesn't overstay its welcome, with the example of that, like, marching theme. That got fucking old, especially with how many times they marched, you know. But the rest of the music I really like. That's my thoughts on it. But was that what you were getting at, Dave?
It was just
quirky,
kind of
sort of like it's got a strange quality to it. Like, it's reminiscent, like Tammy said, of stuff of the era that you're used to. But there's definitely a weirdness to that Planet of Dinosaurs.
Right. It's like I said earlier. It's like it amazed me how much it pushed the nostalgia buttons just from hearing the music. Like, this is not something I would normally put on. Like, I wouldn't buy the soundtrack and sit and listen to it. But it definitely helps bring you back to a time and place when you hear it, you know?
You might sample some of it and, like, fuck it up if you're in a band like 9 Inch Nails or something, but it's not like the type of, you know, shit you're just going to throw on the wax and spin that record.
Actually, you know what?
Maybe.
If you're like, kind of...
God.
This is just a completely weird, crazy thought, but like with that opening synth thing that you hear over the credits or whatever, I'm almost hearing this is something that maybe you could almost imagine Spinal Tap, like putting them that bit on as like the intro, because it kind of reminded me vaguely of the intro to Stonehenge. So, like, you know, you could use that as something like an intro to a song. I could see like that happening, or definitely some sort of late 80s to 90s era rap band using it as a sample or what. Yeah.
Anybody else got anything on the soundtrack? Particular moment in the movie where you felt it fit real well? Anything?
Soundtrack was pretty serviceable. A good decent B movie score.
Anyone else?
Yeah. I think it was really awful and loud and obnoxious, and was definitely worse than the cheesy dinosaurs. And
I mean, it definitely has like a lo-fi thing to it, even for these.
It
types
does,
of
but it
films,
was
so I'm
just
sure you know what we're talking
more
about when we
obnoxious.
say that.
Hey, you might want to know this, Mo. Evidently, dinosaur footage from the movie was used in Beach Babes 2, Cave Girl Island.
It sure
Full Moon
was.
reference.
Yeah, I feel like there's other full moon movies where they probably used it too. Fred Olen Ray, I feel like I've counted him in at least 3 of his films. And then, J.R. Bookwalter obviously made a whole movie based around it as kind of like a sort of dig at those guys for doing it.
And I'm glad that Muppet Babies was mentioned because there was a clip of a dinosaur behind the door from a punchline to the tummy.
With the way all this shit works, there's probably someone worked on this that worked on Muppet Babies. There's so many weird connections between B movies of these eras, like the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, and like major stuff that we don't even think about it.
Like I said, I loved Muppet Babies.
I mean, our dude Leif Yonker, for example, Dave, he might have only made Darkness the Vampire version, but he was like a location scouter for the fucking Mars Attacks movie that they did with Pierce Brosnan and shit. So that's a long way away from like making some B movie we love. Sometimes those dudes do have like good careers in the film industry. It's just not making movies, just being a part of it. I guess they're all making movies when you get down to it. I don't want to discredit any lower level film crew people. I mean, the guy at the craft service fucking table's making a movie. He deserves to be part of that, just like anyone else, So, moving on, production design. I mean, it's pretty much the environment was their sets, so we can't really give them any credit for that. And the fucking wardrobe was abysmal for this. That's part of what makes it endearingly horrible. Is those
wardrobe? I was like, what wardrobe? I mean, they all wore Speedos.
I feel like they just took a bunch of seat covers off the various people's cars or something and like sewed them into jumpsuits. I don't know what the fuck happened with the wardrobe on this, And there's no what do you call it? Like none of it is coherent. It's all over the place. Like even in Star Trek, there might be varying cuts of uniforms, but people on certain levels basically just wore the same ones. But it felt like I mean, it sort of vaguely mimicked Star Trek, but just did it in a random sort of way. Like the two guys that were the tough dudes were in blue, which
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jake. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, it seems like the captain and his right hand, they definitely have their own uniforms. Yeah. And the others are wearing blue. It could have been that was sort of the equivalent of like the bridge crew and then like the red shirt crew. But so their crew was so tiny, it almost looks more random though.
It does. I'll agree with you there, yeah, because him and her, they almost look like they were in like 70s versions of like what you'd imagine like the pilot of your, random airplane looks like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like they look like they're in those kind of stuffy sort of, generic, like the dude that's flying your Pan Am flight wears in front of like random escort girls thinking he's fucking hot shit. That's, it looks like that kind of a random blocky little, you're a pilot, but you're not like fighting people. So you get this kind of embarrassing uniform. It's unfortunate. But that's what it looks like is kind of going on there. And then like the action dudes have the blue uniforms with the shit that's pointing down to their crotch. I always thought that was kind of intentional, when you think about it. Like the two burly dudes with badass facial hair have like their whole uniform is pointing down to their dicks. I feel like that's not a coincidence. I don't or it was just a happy accident, as Bob Ross would say. But sometimes you just gotta put a little wood right there, and that's a little tree there. Maybe he needs a friend. I mean, the costumes are abysmal, and the fucking props are abysmal. Those guns are stupid. Even as a little kid, the first time I saw it, I was like, that's ridiculous. You know, what is that? It looks like they took the innards out of a vacuum and just attached a handle to it. And
I thought they looked kind of like a torpedo or something.
I don't know.
like
Any
that-
thoughts
An
on
earlier edition of a Nerf gun? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe something like it's like
Or a
I
super
was like,
soaker.
what is that? You know, it just looks so. You know, we've all seen movies by now where they in the future the ray guns they have, none of them look like that.
Well, I mean, and the thing is, all right, like, had waterproof watches came out in 1977? I don't know when that was a thing. When did
If it was by Timex, maybe.
I feel like it was probably a thing that had happened, you know, probably some war beforehand, like, necessitated it. But I mean, we're a country at the time that was at the very least on the brink of waterproof watches you could wear at the gym, you know. So the idea that this laser gun is, because wasn't it like busted because he put it in the water?
Yeah. That girl dropped it in the water and it was no good.
Fucking 1926 is when the first waterproof watch was made. So get out of here with that shit. Like, if even as a little kid, I found that iffy. You know, even with pure suspension of disbelief, it was like, it's just, you know, wet because it, or it's just done because it got wet. But then you look at it and it's like, yeah, it looks like a shitty fucking laser rifle anyways. And then when they use them later in the movie, it just, you know, it reinforces that idea because they suck. Did they take down a single thing with their laser rifle in the entire movie? I think all of it is them using primitive weapons.
Well, they used it, but it never took anything
Yeah,
down.
but it always
They
looks like
used
it just annoyed them.
And the dude left it like before like in a place before like the one dinosaur decided to have a fight with another dinosaur, and he was like, "Wait, let me go get the gun," you know.
And they just never went back. That seemed to be a thing in the movie. They're like, all of our fucking rations just fell off this cliff. You're not just going to send a guy back down there to creep down there and try to grab like what he can. There's this idea for a certain like section of the movie that something's just going to kill them at any minute, which is true, I guess. But I don't know, just treat it like walking around Australia or something. Like, I mean, I guess maybe that's true.
Right.
I'm going to try to do this, and if I die, I guess I die. I guess I die. Looked like a bunch of those cliff bars that guy was describing at that one point when he was trying to be funny. We're down at the bottom of that hill, so they, you know. Go ahead,
that was a missed opportunity to have like this Australian dude just talking about, oh, this ain't nothing.
True. Yeah, because it felt very much just like not that big of a deal for most of the movie. But yeah, production design is pretty much non-existent in this. It's just a bunch of awesome stop motion footage cut together with awesome scenery. And for the most part, awesome scenery anyways. And it works pretty well. I mean, their suits suck though. I think we're all in agreement there. What do you guys think about the special effects? Obviously, you know, just quick, brief thoughts on what you think of the stop motion in general. What were some highlights of it for you? And then we'll get into favorite scenes.
I'm not a big stop motion fan, but I think they did okay. You know, for the time and everything, at the time this was made, you know, I would have liked to seen the T-Rex, you know, chomp on something a little bit longer than it did. You know, kind of like grabbed it. Okay, it's dead. That's it. You know, So it would have been a little bit cool, but I think they did okay.
We did get that scene where it peeled that nice piece of meat off of that Stegosaurus or whatever. So
Yeah.
that kind of made up for us not getting the rest of those. And we got that like previously devoured Brontosaurus. So that's kind of neat. But I feel you. What about you, Forrest?
I just like T-Rex fight scenes, that's all.
Mhm.
Actually, I would say the stop motion was the highlight of the movie. I mean, again, going back to what we were talking about in first impressions. This is a movie that's. I feel like the stop motion dinosaurs are kind of what kind of propelled it's what propelled it into this movie into pop culture, where you're seeing it's into pop culture. Like I mean, it's definitely. I mean, even though it may not look realistic, but I feel like it.
It has some really quality stop motion that's almost kind of presented in a way that begs you to edit it out of it and use it for your own thing. Yeah,
exactly. And it has like a real charm to it. Like they. Again, this is. It may not look great, but it's like they do it. It does what it services the story, and which special effects should be doing. They should serve the story, not be the centerpiece. And and you can tell it's like a labor. It's still a labor of love that they did. They try to do whatever they could to get it made.
Right. I mean, they're solid, man. The special effects are. I would agree. I'll just get my fucking shit out of the way here. They're easily the best part of the movie. I mean, if you're sitting down with somebody, even if they don't dig it like Kroll, I mean, there's got to be at least that little part of them that's like, especially if you have to explain to him on the spot what stop motion is, like I did to my cousin. He's like, oh, like Gumby and stuff, or Wallace and Gromit, I think he said, actually. It's like, yeah, exactly that, but in the 70s. And he's like, oh, shit, well, yeah, if they're taking pictures of those things every couple of moves, then that's pretty cool. So the point is, I've always found that, like, it's at least fluidly animated. I could show you bigger budget movies that have way worse stop motion than this, like from the same period. Obviously not Star Wars or anything like that, but yeah.
It's definitely not as smooth as I've seen in some movies, but it's definitely not as jerky as it often is. And they did a pretty good job. I have tremendous respect for stop motion artists because that is painstaking work that is gotta be one of the most tedious, dull jobs one could ever have making movies. Is moving each thing just a little more, take a picture, move it a little more, take a picture, move a little more. It's got to be the most painstaking, dull thing to do unless you're really, really into doing that particular task. And to come up with a product that looks good afterwards, I'm very impressed by people that can do that. Other than that, most of the other effects, like the laser shots and whatever, are pretty cheesy, and we can forget about them. But it definitely, that scene at the beginning, the picture of the ship sinking and whatever, that's like some cringeworthy effects there. But the stop motion was definitely solid in this, and I'll give him props for that.
Very cool. I mean, do you have anything else to add, Carl? I feel like we've heard you talk a lot about your feelings on this stuff, but do you have any particular scene you think that the stop motion works
as far as stop
especially
motion?
well?
Yeah, the first scene with the big T-Rex eating the other dinosaur. Like I said before, that was probably the best one of the best scenes as far as the stop motion goes. So that one looked better than some of the other most of the other scenes.
It
Like
did.
the
That was a
T-Rex
good
in
one.
general looked a little bit better than most. Not always. At some points, it kind of looked like a cartoon version of itself. But I'd say about 60-75% of the time, it looked decent. So it's definitely better than the rest, everything else. So give them
Yeah.
props for the T-Rex, which is my favorite dinosaur. That and Velociraptors, which they didn't really have, but yeah.
They had the equivalent of the time, Arapimas or whatever the fuck those like
Yeah,
skinny anorexic ones
I did
were.
not like those.
I love that part where they like kill the one and they eat it, and then they come back later and they see the other one, and it's like, well, we can easily sneak around this guy. Like they basically just killed that other one to give everyone the crowd rush of like killing a dinosaur. It's pretty fucked up, and it has like a prolonged death, which is one of my favorite effect sequences in the movie as well. I don't know if I have a favorite. We'll get Dave's real quick, and then I'll give my closing statements, and we'll bang out our fucking favorites and get out of here. Dave, what do you think of the effects in this?
I think the effects were okay. I mean, I've seen better. I've seen better animation than this, but at the same time, it does bring back the nostalgia of like movies like the Giant Gila Monster or the Ray Harry, some of the earlier Ray Harryhausen stuff.
Yeah.
This is like somebody taking their fingers and getting themselves wet in stop motion, and just because they love shit like that. So
Exactly.
but
I would echo those sentiments for sure. Good.
But yeah, I mean, the effects are okay. I mean, they do the film justice, and I understand why this film has become kind of a cult classic. Some people make fun of it like shit, although you
As they should.
hold it in high standards. So
I might love it, but it definitely needs to be made fun of. It's built for it. I don't know. I think the best part of the effects in this is that they didn't skimp in terms of like certain scenes. They actually have a stand-in for the actors to interact with. You know what I mean? Like when they kill that, I mentioned it briefly earlier, but that's super fucking cool that they actually went to the lengths to make like a stand-in model for the stop motion model for them to interact with physically. Because you know as well as I, a lot of these movies that use stop motion stuff couldn't even afford to really have a prop for the thing on screen, or they're using old footage and didn't want to build it, so you just don't ever see them actually physically interact with any of the stop motion dinosaurs. Even though both of them are dead, I think that's pretty cool that they bothered to even include that shit in this, I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but yeah, they had like a dinosaur set up on like one of those fucking Ewok style, like I don't know what you call that, where you carry someone on.
Oh
like
yeah, I was gonna mention that and I just forgot. Yeah, that was cool.
So that's more on the production design end of things, but it factors into the effects, so bears mentioning. So yeah, that's it. Anybody got favorite scenes they want to mention? I don't really have like a favorite scene. I think mine's probably just a bunch of random little things that would take too long to mention because I have just too much love for this movie. But
I would say
Forrest.
For me, the Triceratops scene, when he's getting gored by the Triceratops, the guy's getting gored by the Triceratops and knocked off the cliff.
Yeah, that's solid shit.
Solid B movie moment. It's funny, and it's unintentionally funny and entertaining, exciting. And also the giant spider scene.
You and Brandon.
Yeah. Brandon had to duck, but he said he wanted to mention the spider scene as his favorite, so we should throw that out there.
No,
That's why I was throwing it out there.
we don't need to talk about the spider.
Yeah,
what's your
exactly.
favorite scene, Jake?
Yeah, the spider scene's definitely not my favorite, although I will admit it's memorable.
Fucking scary ass spider.
I'm not entirely certain myself what my favorites would be. Like you said, there's a lot of little moments, but I have to admit it is satisfying to see the asshole get his comeuppance, and I might go with that Triceratops scene if only for that reason. But I'm not going to say I'm not convinced that's my favorite, but we'll go with that.
All right, on to you, Curl.
Like Forrest said, the best scene is when the douchebag is getting killed, and just him getting stabbed and him falling off, and like I said, partially because the asshole deserved it, and partially because it was just fucking hilarious. Just the whole thing, the way they showed him falling, like it reminded me like claymation, kinda, and it's just the way he like landed and was like dead, and it was just so hilarious. I just like I said,
it was
just
probably claymation. When he first got stabbed, because that's how they animate like a little dude next.
Right.
The
So it totally didn't look, as much as the whole movie didn't really look all that realistic. That part was doubly realistic, so it just made it even funnier that they were able to cheese it up even more than the rest of the movie, and I just cracked up laughing. So,
as you should.
That's why that is my favorite scene.
What about you, Dave? Well, actually, let's do Tammy first, and then we'll close out with you, Dave, since you'll be doing our closing shit anyways. So, Tammy, favorite scene?
Well, I kind of like the one that everybody else is picking. I love that guy getting killed. It was about time. I wish he would have gotten killed a lot sooner. He was a pain in the ass.
No, I think he got killed at the right moment.
I like that one. That's basically the one I like. But I mean, I like it when they do actually get to take down the T-Rex. Even though I like the T-Rex, but I like when they actually did take him down. So, and I don't like the spider.
The fucking spider.
So Dave, all good stuff. Dave, what's your favorite scenes, bro?
I guess I have just two. I do like the drinking berries scene, because all of a sudden the bare midriff chick comes out and is like, this is the dance of desire, and she starts dancing, and like, I don't know, it was just amusing to me that the berries were alcoholic.
Yeah, that is one whole section we kind of neglected to really mention. We mentioned it, but we didn't go into detail. Like, that girl pretty much tells that dude, look, I've got a storied past. You won't be the first dude. And then I love at the end when he's like, where she's like, should I be afraid of you? And he's like, I'm just some dude. And
some guy.
Like, maybe you will be the last. Like, she just tells him right there, like, maybe it's you, And then immediately after that, they get drunk, and she starts doing a belly dance at random for everybody, even though they're on this fucking dinosaur planet. And it's like, what the fuck? This girl's trying to lure in.
Well, of course, all the guys,
observing the options she has before she settles for our dude Mike. Unfortunately,
I mean, she doesn't have a lot of choices, but yeah, she definitely. I mean, and just because she does him doesn't mean she can't do the other two too as well.
I didn't necessarily get the impression she was trying to get with anyone else. I think she just was
Oh,
kind
she
of
was smart.
feeling
Of course
like,
she was.
yeah, she's just an exhibitionist, maybe. I don't know.
And I guess I was just kind of amused by them cheering at killing that small dinosaur. But for some reason, I just keep thinking about how Jim got like trampled by the T-Rex, and he's like, "Help me out of here," you know. Um, so I think those are my favorite scenes.
Well, that scene where, like, you know, they kill the small dinosaur and they cheer about it is kind of an underrated example of cleverness in the film where, you know, they're basically saying with that part. Well, if you think about it, it is, because when they first set out, he's talking about how, like, or one of them's talking about how, like, they kind of need that. Like, everyone's stressed out and they need to just, like, get some control over their lives. And so even though they fail to hunt down the big dinosaur, like what they think is the big
Killing
dinosaur
something at random will make them happy.
you know, they get, yeah, exactly. And then immediately after that, people are talking about, like, I wonder what else I'll get used to, you know. So it works. It actually does work.
Yeah. They
Murder
definitely
works.
just let off some steam.
Exactly. So yeah, man. I mean, I think we're basically done with Planet of the Dinosaurs. Do you guys enjoy this? Good discussion. I thought so.
That
Good
was
times.
I thought it was fun.
Anybody else
discussions
have
are always
anything
fun.
they want to mention about the show before we close it out?
Just saying, these discussions are always fun usually. I always have a good time.
No,
Yeah, I mean, it's a
think we're
simple
good.
film that offers a very basic enjoyment. But if you like the kind of stuff it's presenting, I think you'll be pretty stoked on it.
No, I definitely can see that, and I see you guys all have a. I mean, I see the nostalgia, but unfortunately, I agree that it felt like the other stuff that I've seen, but I don't like that type. So unfortunately, it was the opposite for me with the nostalgia. But I definitely can see how people can enjoy that and get the enjoyment.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
enough.
it's not that I hate stop motion. It's just I don't enjoy most of it. It's sometimes it's good.
You should try that Wallace and Gromit, man.
In little
Very
bits.
cheese-based. You'll
It's
enjoy
good in little bits, not like a whole movie. Too much.
Starts out in Chicken Run. But anyway,
There you go.
shall we go
Yeah.
into our outros? So, Mo, since you brought this film to the table, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, my name is Mo. I run a channel called Retro Cult Home Video. I haven't been really doing much lately, but we're going to be rolling out some cool stuff over there, like discussion-wise, in the near future. Hopefully some edited content soon thereafter. We'll see how my work schedule allows for that and varying other things. But yeah, check me out. Thanks for having me on, man. Really like discussing these movies with you guys this month. I think we've set a good precedent for, like, the flow of this month, because it started out with like martial arts shit, sort of grindhousey stuff, and then it went into like, B-movie fantasy, and then into this kind of shit. And then we're closing it out with actually a pretty high-end horror film, in my opinion. Certainly not like low-budget B-movie stuff, but yeah, I think you guys are really going to like it. It's called Razorback, and it just sort of showcases like my love of horror and my love of like weird man versus wild / creature feature type movies. So that's what we got
Alrighty.
going on.
Looking forward to that. So let's go over to you, Forrest. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
All right. My name is Forrest Bennett. I'm an independent film producer and occasional actor based in Long Island, New York. I recently was in a movie called Brooklyn Love Doll Massacre that just filmed this past weekend. I also have another movie that I worked on recently, called Victim No More. It's a Friday the 13th fan film, which is coming out written and directed by Bobby Heckman. I was a PA and grip on it. and it's coming out this week.
I'm sorry, you were what?
What?
What were you on it?
I was a PA and grip on the movie. It's called Victim No More. It's a Friday the 13th fan film.
What does that do? A PN grip?
A PA and grip?
Yeah.
Production assistant, well, who basically do whatever the AD tells them to do, and then grip basically they work in the camera department.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
And I'm also acted in a movie called Amityville Thanksgiving that's coming out in November. That's been getting press from Fangoria, Bloody Disgusting, and all the other major horror websites and magazines, which has been pretty exciting to be part of something like that. And then you can also see me on another channel called Under the Radar, where we do it's a public access TV show based here in New York. We do hosted by Randy Unger. We review newer movies and TV shows. You can also catch me on a podcast called Nostalgia Time with Kid Champagne, hosted by Matthew Haberman, where we discuss 80s and 90s pop culture. And then also my YouTube channel and my YouTube channel, Forrest B. Bennett, and Instagram at My Name Is Not Gump, where I do comic pickups. I've always got something going on in the pipeline.
Alrighty, cool. Heading over to you, Jacob. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
All right, I'm Kotobukijake. I am a movie fan and viewer here in Central Virginia, where I co-host along with SeptumSin. Brandon dropped a little earlier, but he was with us earlier. We co-host YouTube channel SeptumSin versus the World, which is dedicated to physical media in all of its forms. We do pickup videos. We got a pretty fun one this week. We do random other things. We're working on a video which we plan to do hopefully sooner than later, where we discuss the opening theme, our favorite opening themes from anime. And we do monthly anime discussions. This month is Clamp School Detectives. It's going to be an interesting choice. And other than that, I keep quite busy, work a full-time job, but also have a nursery, RVA Homegrown Natives, that I'm co-founder and co-owner of, and I try to be active in movies to some degree, mostly through Kickstarter programs. And I actually got the note just yesterday that a documentary that I put some money into a couple of years back, Tipping the Pain Scale, has had a couple of festival showings, but it's apparently going to be available on Apple and iTunes in about 3 weeks. So that's going to be kind of fun. I think that's its official release. So check it out. It may be a Versus Award contender for next year. And I guess that'll do it for me tonight.
Alrighty. Heading over to you, Tammy. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I'm David's fiance. I go on this channel and another one and talk about the movies and learn what other people think and things like that, which makes a lot of fun. I have my own collection of movies and music, and I also take my 1972 Grand Prix out for fun now that it's summer.
Alrighty, heading over to you, Kroll. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I'm Ron, aka Kroll. I watch movies and TV shows that I enjoy, read books, and play video games. And I'm coming on this podcast and the one on Sunday with Dave and Tammy. Also been guest starring in a few with Mo and Full Moon, etc. And anime discussions, which if anyone knew me, I was never a big fan of anime and always said, I didn't like them. Recently, I've found a few more that I really do like, and hopefully, I will find a few more down the road that I like. I'm going to continue trying to open my horizons a little bit and find some more that I may enjoy.
Alrighty. And my name is David Strege. I'm one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore. We have been on line and talking together for roughly about 5 years, give or take. Crew's changed over time, but we still have a lot of fun. Enjoying discussing different movies from different levels, and hopefully we'll have some more cool stuff to talk about during the next half of the or the next fourth of the year. So looking forward to that. But I also moonlight under a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where we also go on every Sunday. Although today's podcast is always on a Tuesday. But I do so with Tammy here and Crow, and we have a lot of fun there. So we're looking forward to this Sunday because we'll be checking out a movie that I know that I haven't watched of Nicolas Cage's Valley Girl, which is being put forth by Crow. So hopefully you like it or whatnot.
Such a beautifully random choice.
And he did it all by the roll of a die. So it's going to be interesting.
But with the exception of I could choose which three movies would be one of the choices. But yeah, I did random on the decade, random on the genre, and then random between the three movies that I chose.
And under the same guise and channel, I also do some video pickups and video reviews of my own. So please check this channel out. It's got a lot of things going for it. And hopefully you'll like, share, and subscribe. Let us know down in the comments what you thought of this film if you've seen it. And if you haven't, please check it out. It's definitely enough for you B-movie fans that are out there and UV movie beginners. So thank you, and hopefully everyone has a good night, and let's say good night to the good folks out there.
Good night,
Good
Grant.
night.
Good folks.
There.
Show it to your kids. It's like a good teething ring for young B movie fans.
Indeed.